Ladies and gentlemen, I am officially running for President of the United States. And
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome, everyone. We are joined this evening by Matthew.
What's up?
Hang on, I have a echo. Do I have a second one? Oh, Rumble. That's where it's coming from.
Gotta love the technology.
Okay, I think that's right. Can you hear me again? There we go.
Yeah, we're good.
I was like, I hear my voice. This isn't good. And as always, Dog Mom. What's up, Dog Mom?
Hey, how are you?
I'm all right. So, let's say hello and we'll get right into. We're into day 5, and it's the lady with the. She shows a lot of the crime scene photos and stuff like that. So,
Is it the lady from OSU?
I believe so. An older lady.
Amanda Agnew, her name is. I do believe.
Yeah, I just looked at it just a second ago when it was her.
I forgot what she claims to be, but it's not a board certified forensic anthropologist. I don't think.
Gotcha. She's probably a academic, probably a teacher.
Right. She's a professor at OSU.
Okay.
What she does, in layman's terms, I think what she does is if you're at a site somewhere and you see something and you want to know if it's a bone and what kind of bone is it, if you're at like a site, you'll send the bone to her and she'll figure out what it is for you. I think that's what she does normally. As far as in forensics, anthropology, you'll have to listen to her. It's been so long since I listened to her tell you what her credentials are. But
okay, yeah, we start with that. So, Digger, what's up, Digger?
Hey, Digger.
Dog Mama, hello. Bobby, what's up, buddy?
Hey, Bobby.
Ghostry.
Ghost.
Hey, Shanny.
Hey, Shanny.
Hey, Mystic.
I'm gonna echo.
And that should be it. We have Digger over on Rumble, so let's get right into it, and we'll learn more about it with you guys. So,
I've been supplied a report pursuant to Promoral 16K that is dated January 11th, 2021, and then there's an addendum, although that's dated May 10th, 2021. I would just proactively object, Your Honor, to any testimony with respect to further observations or testing or conclusions that she's made since authoring her report. Not only do I not have notice with respect to any report as to that additional work or photographs that have been taken, but I met with Dr. Agnew on August 5th, 2022, so earlier this month in person. And I interviewed her for over an hour. And at that point in time, she had told me that she had not looked at the bones again since performing her work. It now appears, based on what we know from just a bit earlier, that she has taken some subsequent photos and or
shit! So she did extra
I
work.
would object to any testimony as to what she has recently done, as I have not been put on any notice, been given a report,
And didn't give it to the
certainly have
defense.
not been able to discuss that information with my expert, and it doesn't comply with 16K. I just wanted to put that on the record as my objection before we begin.
That's kind of shitty.
Judge Feeney, just for the record, none of what Dr. Agnew did recently had any impact on her written report, her findings, her opinion in this case.
Then why bring it in,
What
asshole?
She says that she took some additional photos as a way that she was trying to.
I reached out to his office, and they responded to me, which I was surprised by.
Okay.
Yeah. they asked to see my YouTube channel and then haven't responded since. So,
say that again. What happened?
they asked for my link to my channel and haven't responded since I replied to them. So they're probably gonna ghost me, but I will keep you guys posted. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Oh,
That's funny.
Probably,
have you seen the Dateline?
probably. Yes, I have.
So, did you see? I mean, what did you think of his part? I mean, there was a he makes a claim that at the end he's like that murder could have happened in the condo or it could have happened in the woods. If I was a betting man, I put my money on that it would be in the woods. He knows that it couldn't have happened in the condo because there wasn't any evidence that there was anything happened at the condo. There's no forensics there.
Yeah, he was kind of out of both sides of his mouth. He was saying that
right.
they didn't have anything to prove that you did it, which is obvious by the testimony in the trial and you sitting here.
That's somehow that's evidence for him that there isn't evidence.
Right.
That's evidence. Yeah.
Right. Lack of evidence. You got to prove your innocence now. That's
The
how the
only
American court system works. So
he's leaving things open because it's damage control is what he's doing, right? I mean, if that was significant, he would have said that at trial, right? Well, it could have happened here. But they didn't even mention the condo because they know it couldn't happen at the condo. But now that it's over and he's in damage control, now he's able to say whatever he wants. So why not? It could have happened at the condo. We know he knows it didn't happen at the condo. He's being very I don't know what you want to call it. Is he lying? I guess you could call that lying.
disingenuous.
Disingenuous would be the word.
Yeah.
Right.
To be the
And then the bed. It's a absurd version of events. That's how he put that. That to think that Emily would have made her bed before going to commit suicide, as if that is like proven in scientific literature somewhere that people that commit suicide don't tidy up before they go, which is just the opposite from what I hear from people. They're able to say these things. They're just able with impunity. No one will ever call him out on anything he says, so he can just literally say whatever he wants. So, yeah. Well,
right.
if you talk to him, tell him I said hello.
Will do. and like anything else, like you try and hold them accountable, and they're not likely going to respond to me from this point. So you try and ask them the tough questions, and they can just dodge them, and they have no. There's nothing, and I get it. I mean, if I was a shady little weasel, I probably wouldn't talk to me either. But I'm not helping my case here any.
I did have you said something to me the last time I was on. You said that police will put, because they're investigating things, they'll put what they find into the file, into not discovery maybe, but into whatever, and then they'll discredit it immediately if it doesn't happen to fit whatever the tunnel vision thing. Is this something? Right. Is this something that like do they have to put it in the file? Why would they put it in the file in the first place if they knew it wasn't going to fit their version of events? I mean, why would they?
You don't have to, but if you have a half decent attorney on the other side and it comes up, you look like shit. And then the attorney's coming back to the police and saying, "I just got blindsided. What the hell is this about?" Right. And there's no downside to you putting something in there and just saying, "Yeah, it didn't fit my fit my narrative version of events." So it's there.
So so it's there for everybody to find it. It's like stuff like that. It's going to be in the discovery. They just don't pay attention to it, or they just discredit it when they go to explain things. All right.
Yeah, because they're not held to any standard of knowledge of anything. Like they don't have to use or not use anything. They choose what they use and don't use. So there's no downside to them throwing it in. So
there's no downside. So I mean, and then if they don't do it, maybe it's something big, and they can get in some sort of, like you said, that the prosecution be like, "Hey, what's going on? Why wasn't this in here or whatever? Why wasn't this in there?" Am I getting that correctly?
Yeah, and it's a lot of building it for next time. So if I left something out and it screwed you on this case, you're probably not going to prosecute my next case.
Oh, okay.
It's a lot of that. I'm covering my own ass, so you continue to prosecute my cases from this point.
Yeah. Well,
So-
who flips the switch? Who turns on the green
This guy.
light when it comes to?
This guy standing here, whoever
It's-
is prosecuting. So
Wow.
yeah,
What a bozo.
police
He
can bring
actually thought
charges
he had
all
enough to
day.
convict. Have you been a part of witness to? You guys are trial people. I mean, have you seen another person get convicted with this type of evidence?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
that's
we've
sad.
seen a couple.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, once it gets to a jury, it's a coin flip.
Right. That's what you
and
said.
and
right?
yeah, that's why they take so many there. It is a coin flip. You're either going to win
Like you
or
said,
lose, but
just bring as much evidence. You don't have to make any sense of it, but just keep bringing stuff in.
Right.
Inundate the defense with all this crap that doesn't mean anything, and it might work. It might just work, right? It might be.
right.
Look at all this
Yeah.
evidence. There's 30,000 pages of discovery. There must be something in there.
Well,
And to think that
you're,
they can go over 30,000 pages of discovery in 8 days. You know what
Right.
I mean?
Yeah.
you're burying your defense team for one, and then for two, the jury. We just naturally, as humans, are like, shit. We've sit here and listened to 6, 8, 10 days of testimony. There has to
Right.
be something here.
Yeah.
Right.
So, your natural instinct kicks in, and it's often not correct, but they certainly utilize that, and we study that, and people in law enforcement and prosecuting offices damn well know that if you inundate with somebody with something, they're going to eventually be like, huh, maybe he did.
Right.
And
So it's a tactic. It's definitely a tactic.
oh yeah,
Right.
100%. So, let's see. All right.
Well, we'll just let it go, right?
what's up,
And if anybody has any questions, I'm here to answer them. So
yeah. Fash, you can be the most innocent person in the world. If you go in front of a jury, you have a greater than 0 chance of being convicted. Yep.
right.
Yep.
That's true.
So,
Right.
and just for those who just are joining us, Matt is the defendant in this case. So he is here joining us. He's been incredibly generous with his time. I'll have to link his book here. Read his book. It's definitely worth a read.
Yeah,
It
Shinny's
explains
been
a lot of.
linking it.
Oh, perfect.
Thank you. Appreciate
Thank you, Shinny. Go out and check out his book. It fills in a lot of the blanks, a lot of the questions that you have, and then if you still have questions, he's been awesome with his time and incredibly approachable. So get it to me or get it to us, and we'll put it in front of him. He's answered every damn question we've had. So
Yeah.
If you, the only thing I have really for people to communicate with me is Facebook and YouTube. But Facebook, I mean, I'm there. If you spell my name correctly, you'll probably find me, and just message me on Facebook, and I answer everyone. So
okay, good deal. All right, we'll get back to Shady Guy here, the leprechaun.
More easily explain some of the things that she's talking about. We've removed those 2 subsequent photographs from the slides. I don't intend to ask her any questions about re-examining the bones, but I do want to make it clear that none of that had any impact whatsoever on what the opinion was that she offered in this case. It was provided probably a year ago in discovery or whatever. So we don't have a 16K issue with any of the things she's going to testify about.
So you're agreeing with what the defense has raised?
I have no issue saying we're not going to talk about any subsequent examination for the photographs that she took in
Okay,
recent times.
well, I think we've resolved.
And I'll go let our witness know that too, to make sure that she knows that.
Okay, before you go, let me just get the template, since I think we got a lot of experts in our future. As an expert testifies, I want the proponent of that party to have the 16K report handy. If the other side says that individual is saying something that wasn't in that report, we'll have a sidebar. I'll have the person who doesn't like what the witness is saying, say what it is they're about to say or they are saying, and then I'm going to ask the proponent, is that in writing in that report? If it is, it comes in. If it's not, it doesn't come in. Okay, now we're resolved on this witness, as I understand it. But I just want to let you know that's the template we're going to do for these types of issues that come up with other experts down the road. Okay, go ahead and whenever you're ready.
This judge actually seems quite fair, by the way.
I like them.
I just want to know your process.
Well, you don't have an issue with the qualifications of the expert, I believe. Well, I don't know what the reports say. So, however, using this example, since you're the not the proponent of the expert, and you anticipate that something's about to be said, you can make your objection. Does that work for you? Okay. Yeah. Either they say something or they're about to say something. If you want to raise the issue, we can do that. It'll be a short sidebar. I mean, in light of what the template is. So, whenever you're ready. Okay, that's good.
Aaron Hacks is just in time to hear Teen Wolf talk.
I bet she looks about 8 without a beard, though. The prosecutor.
Yeah. I still call him Wish.com Wolverine.
Everyone have a seat. Becky.
Yes, I can.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Amanda Agnew, Agnew.
And what is your current occupation?
I'm a professor at The Ohio State University.
And
Yeah.
in what field?
Human anatomy, biomedical engineering, and forensic anthropology.
And how long have you been employed at The Ohio State University?
For approximately 12 years.
Coach, what's the March season at 125?
I thought she looked older when I was previewing it. Maybe I went to.
Handy, what's been March season at 125? Take a moment to look that
Yeah,
over.
you're talking about an older lady. I was like, no, I just checked it and it seemed like a younger
Do you
one.
recognize that document?
I do.
And
Maybe there's an older one after.
It's my professional CV or resume.
And how many pages in total is it?
35.
Cool.
Holy shit! 35-page CV.
Yeah.
Very impressive.
Definitely an academic.
But she's not very experienced in forensic anthropology.
Okay.
It's not. It's like at the end. It's.
But she
I don't
does.
think it takes much.
Doctor, I'm
to
showing
complete.
you season 125. Can you tell the jury what it is we're looking at here?
My professional resume.
Is that the first page of your professional resume?
Yes.
The first part there is about your educational background.
Correct.
Can you tell the jury what your educational background is, please?
Sure. I received my undergraduate degree, a Bachelor of Arts in Biological Anthropology from the State University of New York in 2004. And I moved to Ohio shortly thereafter, and earned my master's degree in Biological Anthropology from the Ohio State University in Biological Anthropology, and then continued on to receive my PhD also from the Ohio State University in Biological Anthropology in 2011.
So what does it mean to obtain a PhD in biological anthropology?
A lot of work. It's a research degree, so it entails a lengthy research project in addition to coursework that summarizes your area of expertise, essentially.
The next part of page 1 of your resume talks about your current academic positions. Could you please let the jury know what those are?
My primary appointment is of professor in the School of Health and Rehabilitation Sciences in the College of Medicine, where I teach anatomy and I conduct biological anthropology research. And I also have adjunct appointments in both the Department of Biomedical Engineering to focus on bone biomechanics, as well as the Department of Anthropology to focus on forensic
So
anthropology.
she's a doctor.
And, archaeology as well.
She's
At
done.
Like
the
a-
bottom there
like a
is
legit
director of the
doctor,
Skeletal
an MD.
Biology Research Laboratory. Can you tell us what that is?
That is my
Yeah.
personal laboratory that I run inside the auspices of the Injury Biomechanics Research Center, where I train students of all levels, as well as postdoctoral researchers on skeletal biology.
Continuing on from page 1 and then page 2, there are a number of other things listed as past jobs that you've held at Ohio State. Could you just generally walk through what those were?
Yes, these were essentially all stepping stones to my current position, and at different ranks, starting from assistant professor to associate professor to then the highest rank of professor, where I am currently, which is just termed professor.
You mentioned also that you conducted research.
Yes, that's a large portion of my job.
Can you give the jury some examples of the types of things that you've been involved in research-wise?
Yes, from a research standpoint, the majority of my time is spent researching bone biomechanics and how and why bones fracture in different scenarios.
Yeah, she's 100% an academic.
Those, your
Yeah.
research activities also
Yep.
listed on your resume.
Yes, both under the research experience and funding, but also in publications and presentations as well throughout the document.
Any idea roughly the number of different research projects you've been involved in?
I can't recall off the top of my head. It's been many.
Fair to say it's many pages of your resume that contains that information.
Yes, my job is 90% research.
Have you also been published as an author?
Yes.
And can you
I would hope so if she's doing
put
research
up-
full time.
Now showing you
Yeah.
page 7
That pays a lot of money.
of your resume. Can you tell the jury what it is that we're looking at here?
Yes, this is the beginning of a list of 72 peer-reviewed journal publications that I have completed over the course of my career in various journals. And again, these are all peer-reviewed. That means that they are submitted to the editorial board of the journal and then reviewed by scientific experts in the field, typically 2 to 3 reviewers. And they provide feedback, and ultimately it ends in publication if it's successful.
And you said there's 72 different times you've been published in peer-reviewed journals.
Approximately.
Obviously, not going to go through all 72 of those. But can you tell us the types of things in which you've written articles that have been published?
Yes, again, the majority has been related to bone fractures and biomechanics in various situations.
So that tells me that she also hasn't done anything new and is just an ass kisser.
Yes.
I'm not showing you
Because you don't have that
page
many
12
papers if you're
of your
preventing
professional
novel
resume. Can
research.
you tell the jury what
I
it is?
think this is her first.
So
Try.
conference proceedings are papers
Is it?
that result
Okay.
from the presentations that were given at each of those conferences. So you provide a paper, write a paper, which sometimes is peer reviewed, other times not, that's associated with the presentation.
And she's OSU.
and
That's a
you
big
know that
thing to
there's
people
21 different
from,
times
you
that
know,
you've
that
done that?
area, right? So
Yes.
Right.
Right.
anytime OSU was
Continue to page 14 of
able
your
to be
resume.
mentioned, it got mentioned.
Can you tell us
Yeah.
generally what information
Well, it's
is,
credibility.
listed here?
Yes, these are additional publications, including chapters in
Like if she went to
books,
Michigan or
textbooks
she taught in
for,
Michigan, it wouldn't have the
informational
same
books
effect,
for
right?
experts in the field, as well as reviews of other
They
people's
wouldn't have brought
books.
it up.
And the bottom is the beginning
Oh,
of
maybe.
technical
Michigan's
reports
a
that were done for various
prestigious
projects as
school.
well.
Although they suck.
And again, generally speaking, what topics have those?
Matt, don't get him started on
Mostly
Michigan.
bone biomechanics and bone fracture.
Page 15 of your resume includes something called published abstracts. Can you tell us generally what it is that we're looking at there?
Yes, to be invited to give a presentation at a scientific conference, you have to generally submit an abstract where your content is reviewed by your peers, and then they select your research to be presented at the conference. So when these abstracts are then selected from all of the abstracts that have been submitted and essentially allowed to be presented at the conference, the abstract is then published, also associated with the presentation.
Not if you're a published professor from Ohio
Listed here
State.
that you have 109
You know
different
that.
published abstracts.
Yes,
Without going through all of those, can you tell us again generally what types of topics those abstracts are about?
mostly bone biomechanics and skeletal biology related topics.
On page 23 of your professional resume, can you tell us what it is we're looking at here?
These are presentations that were, for the most part, invited, that are not necessarily associated with a professional scientific meeting, but that are asked for as a content expert at various places.
And continuing on page 24, does it also indicate national and international conferences you've presented at?
Yes, these are presentations that are just organized by the audience, whether it's a local audience, a national audience, or in many cases, an international audience.
I'm showing you on page 25 of your resume, you have a heading of teaching experience. Can you tell us what it is that we're looking at there?
Yes, this is a short list of courses that I've taught, mainly at The Ohio State University in different departments on different topics throughout my career.
Matt, we got 2 from Fast Group real quick. What happened to your children? You had one boy and he committed suicide earlier, correct?
And I had one that died of a sickness when he was 2, or not quite 2.
Okay.
I'm sorry. He was one year, 1 month, and a few days old. So he was 2.
Mhm.
I'm sorry. It's been so long. He just turned 2. He died of like a bronchial spasm, like a really, really severe asthma attack. And Joey died of he's committed suicide
Right.
when he was almost 18, almost 18.
Okay.
So
Okay. And then he had one more significance of the USB cable. We got into that with the last expert, but I'll let you go for that.
what's that?
The significance of that USB cable that came up repeatedly in this trial. So
what did they make of the USB cable as far as in trying to prosecute me?
yeah, I think like the moving it, obviously it was what was used for the actual hanging, but There was also some placement issues and stuff like that. So
They didn't go into like how it was tied, any of it. They didn't go
Well,
into it. They
well, they
took a
cut it
picture of
3
it,
times.
and they smock their guy comes in and says, one of the reasons I think this is a homicide is because of my interpretation of the scene. Well, what about the scene? He never says anything about the scene. So there really wasn't. They didn't prove that it even came from our house. I don't know what they were trying to do with it, but they didn't really go into the USB cable. It was. Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead, bud. Go ahead, Matt.
It was a strange USB cable. It was old. We had tons of USB cables in our condo. It was her mother's condo, and her mother had downsized from a huge house to a smaller house and brought all those cables with her. It's probably some sort of old cable from some sort of old, but they didn't make an issue of it. I don't know what they had a doctor come out from OSU, and they used the cable, and they were making sure that the cable could hold someone of Emily's weight. It all worked. It all worked. So I don't really what's the significance of the USB cable? I don't think they really made a big deal out of it. I don't really know.
Well, and you can definitely tell that it was an older cable because of the big plastic piece that was on it.
Yeah.
It was an older. I thought that they were going to be like they were going to use it. Hey, it's definitely it fit a device from the condo, so therefore it was definitely came from the condo. Yeah, It came from the condo. Emily went and got a cable.
Right.
So I don't know.
Right.
It didn't really work against me anyway. So.
Yeah, no, and they were so lax about the cable the whole time. Like, I was so pissed that they cut the cable
3 times.
3 times.
What were they doing?
Yeah.
What were they doing?
I have no clue.
We need to know how that ligature was around. I mean, that if they're going to say it was staged, I mean, you'd have to make sure that probably because when they showed up, they were like, oh, this is a suicide. It's definitely a suicide. And they just cut her down and just, okay, off she goes. And then they made a big deal out of it. I don't know. And then they were like, where's the evidence? Oh, I'm sorry. We were pretty sure it was a suicide. Every suicide we go to, we don't cut her, like do all this documentation. I'm speculating. I don't really know why they didn't, but the guy that showed up from the FBI, a guy from the FBI showed up, and a guy from the OBI, I think, Ohio Bureau of Investigation.
Right.
And they just didn't. They fouled it up. Probably, thinking probably because they just didn't think it was a suicide.
Right.
So,
it wasn't an Ethernet cable, Ghostry.
It seemed to be kind of an afterthought.
I have no idea how it was tied. I have no idea. They didn't go into it. I look at the pictures. I try to figure out how she did it. I don't know.
It was only hanging on by that plastic.
Right. There was like a loop or something, and she put the loop in, and the loop hung onto it. I really don't know. I mean, and they're like you would never hang yourself like that. It wouldn't work. Well, she was out there for 4 months. They're not saying that anybody moved her there, so she literally was dangling. She went from 100 pounds to 19 pounds, and it worked. I mean, she stayed up there. She was up there. So
yeah,
it just kind of helped my case, is what it did, basically.
And then the FBI guy, I forget which one he was, but Officer Dipshit, 22,000 pictures, but didn't take one of the neck area. It's like, what the hell is wrong with you?
Or taking her down, which was very frustrating too.
Right.
I mean, with the guy with the big hands on.
Yeah. That was ridiculous.
Yeah, they botched it, and it wasn't just like Westerville guys; it was other people. I mean,
right.
They needed to get this one right, and they didn't do anything right. Either that, or this just happens at every single one of them. There's no need for this type of evaluation of what they do because it's not that big of a thing, But they needed it to be a big thing if they wanted to stick this on me, to pin this on me. They didn't do it. Those guys, I'm not saying the guy from the FBI, the OBI, and the other guy from the morgue, the investigator that took her down, they weren't in on it. They didn't have it. Why would
No.
There was another scene, another suicide. Let's just take her down, put her in the bag, and go home. But,
Yeah. Yeah, and it seemed to be pretty evident that they thought it was a suicide from the beginning, and that the local police was the one that was pushing the homicide.
Why am I
portion.
taking all these pictures? Okay, I take a lot of pictures. Okay, I guess whatever. They didn't know. They didn't know anything. Right.
So yeah, no, that was frustrating last week for me. So
it was very frustrating. We had words.
Right.
It was not done correctly, but all right, we'll get back
and
into it.
well, Digger asked, does Matt think this was a murder? No, he knew it was a suicide. Yeah, he knew.
A lot of people are saying they asked my attorney at the end of the dateline. They asked her, could this have been a suicide, a murder? And she's like, yes, but you have to take it in the context that she's saying it. She says, if you look at it from the beginning, if you go all the way back to the beginning before anything gets collected, anything gets gone, anything is possible. And that's why she said yes. She's not saying that it could have been a murder. You have to listen to. She's a lawyer. She's speaking lawyer.
Right.
Lawyer.
Legalese.
Angle. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then Shinny had a question. Are you working now? Did you get your old job back, or is looking for a job a bit difficult now?
Yeah, looking for a job is a bit difficult now. I am back out in Las Vegas, and I've been out here for 25 years, but it's tough. It's tough everywhere. It's not going to be easy for me to get a job at a place where there's a lot of people, because there's always going to be that thing that's there. So I can't see anybody that's going to want to hire me in their casino. They're not going to want me walking around their casino. So
right. Yeah, that's one of those unthought of consequences that the police just don't seem to give a shit about.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know. I'm just happy to be free. So I take it day by day, and I don't spend a lot of money. So
yeah. All good, Digger. I was just answering your question.
All right, we good to go?
Yep.
All right.
Page.
Damn it! I clicked something.
Stop clicking.
27 year resume. We have a heading of advising and mentorship. Can you tell us what it is we're looking at there?
Yes, this part of my resume focuses on my trainees and who I teach my science to and train research to. So it's organized by rank, essentially from visiting scholars through postdoctoral scholars, and then doctoral students, other graduate students, as well as undergraduate students.
On page 31 of your resume, there's a heading of honors and awards. Can you tell us what it is we're looking at there?
Yes, this is just a few of the awards that I've received.
Can you go back to playing poker, Matt? Didn't you used to play?
No.
No?
No, I was never a poker player. I was just a dealer.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
That would have been that. I could definitely blend into that community, and they wouldn't even care.
Yeah, that'd be a good one.
No, but I don't.
And then there's a heading entitled service activities. Can you tell us what it is we're looking at there?
Yes, these service activities are important for an academic career path. And so this portion outlines my service to journals to review, to peer review other people's scientific articles that they have written.
Page 35, there's a other professional experience. Can you tell us what it is we're looking at?
Yes, this is professional experience that is generally considered outside of the academic requirements. And so there are a number of different topics covered here, from a certification as an injury specialist to a training workshop that I've participated in, as well as my involvement as a forensic anthropologist in casework.
We'll come back to that in just a minute, but then there's also at the bottom a list of professional memberships and service. Can you tell us what it is we're looking at there?
Yes, professional membership to various groups is important to advance your science and to work with colleagues. So I am a member of numerous different professional societies so that I can collaborate.
So basically all this is saying on her authoring, her refereeing, for those who don't know much about the scientific paper world, she is a giant ass kiss. And she just all she does is validate other people's shit. She never does anything that's controversial or off left field or try to disprove anything.
Forensic anthropology specifically has a board
she is an
certification.
ass kiss.
Can you tell us, have you been board certified as a forensic?
She teaches a class at
It's not required to practice in the
at the
field.
college in forensics, but
Do you have an
she's
idea
never
roughly how many
been
practitioners
used in
or
a
obstetric
forensics
practitioners
case.
are
before, so.
quote unquote board certified?
Yeah, that doesn't surprise
Based on a
me.
few recent publications, I think that it's somewhere around 50% of practicing forensic anthropologists are board certified.
And so it's not something that Ohio State requires for you to hold all the different positions and the things that you've done through Ohio State.
No.
I want to go back, as I mentioned, back to the other professional.
Who was
experience.
the older gentleman and the lady
was
that
something there
sat on that side of
further
the
space in
table?
front of
I mean,
the-
on the defense side.
Forensic anthropology
always see.
consultations. What does that mean?
One of them
That
is
is a
a
request from
just a
anyone
lady
from a
that
police department to
she's
a medical
into
examiner.
she's into
it's
true
then the
crime.
Department of Homeland Security in some cases.
Okay.
the
Oh,
FBI
okay.
and others.
She's
A request
actually
to
gotten a
consult on a
hold of me. I
case
talked
related
to her.
to
She
forensic
asked me there the whole
anthropology
time.
expertise.
And how do
You
you
can,
get
anybody
involved
can
in
go to those
requests
trials,
to
right?
perform
Right,
roles
yeah.
of forensic
Yeah.
anthropologists?
Anybody's. And
In
the
my
older
case,
gentleman,
personally, I have never
I'm
sought
not
out
sure.
these opportunities.
Okay.
Someone has always requested.
he's always in the background of something. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
So generally,
he
People
looks
were
like a
asking.
hitman from the mob.
You're a
I
consultant.
don't know who that is.
An email or a phone call to start the conversation.
Have you performed forensic anthropological assessments for coroner's offices?
Yes.
And can you tell us about how you get involved in that type of process?
Typically, the coroner's office will again call or email and provide some
Also, the fact that
very
she's not board certified, it seems stupid,
minimal
and
details
it is.
requesting.
But
Right.
if she was
my lab,
challenging
myself,
anything, that's
our
the first thing they would rip
expertise, in order
apart
to
in a
consult on a
scientific
case.
paper. So,
And
again,
oftentimes the
that's
first
just
request
another-
is this feasible or
That
not,
shows me
before going into
again
any
that
details.
she's just a kiss ass and just
Is there
validates
generally
research.
a
Doesn't ever do
type of
anything.
case or a type of scenario
specific.
of why a coroner's office would be asking for an anthropological examination based on her experience?
Well, qualifying this individual as an expert?
Yes, sir.
Any objection to that?
I'm not sure what the qualification is.
In forensic anthropology?
Well,
And I've got more questions if there's a.
why don't you
common
do your foundation, just continue on if you feel you need to.
Yeah, you can't just qualified because I
Have
say
you
she
been asked
is.
to assist coroner's offices in the past?
Yes.
And do you recall how many
Hey,
times
Scad.
you've contributed to a forensic?
It's good.
Somewhere between 50 and 100 times, probably. Contributions can be something
This
very
is their first
minimal
time
to a very
testifying at the
in-depth
trial.
analysis.
Wow.
He's done other stuff. but-
Have you, in your profession, assessed skeletons?
Of course. Yes.
And what does that mean to assess a skeleton?
Skeletal assessment or analysis includes taking a detailed look at the entire skeleton. I am also an anatomist, and so I study soft tissue as well. But when assessing a skeleton, it's typically only the skeletal remains. And so that's what I'm commenting on in this case. But it
Also
can
true.
be anything from assessing whether a skeleton is
This is a
human
prosecution
or
witness.
non-human, because it's actually
Yeah, we're
difficult
still
to
in
tell in
prosecution.
some cases, to a biological profile that helps us to assess the sex, the age, the stature of the individual. It could be a detailed trauma analysis to look for fractures on the skeleton, or it could involve assessing pathological or degenerative changes to the skeleton as well. Essentially looking for any evidence to qualify and quantify everything about that individual from their skeletal remains.
Any idea how many different skeletons you've assessed in your career?
Thousands.
This time I'd offer Dr. Agnew is an expert in the field of forensic anthropology.
Your Honor, I have no objection to her being qualified as an expert in skeletal biomechanics, but I'm not sure the proper foundation has been laid for forensic anthropology.
Well,
I
you
don't
wish
think
to
it has
review
either.
Yes, ma'am.
No, that's good.
Can I see your resume? Good morning.
Good morning.
We've met before.
Yes.
I came to your office, I think it was on August 5th of this year. Does that sound right? It was a Friday.
I don't recall the date.
Okay, well, within this month, we met each other.
Recently.
So showing you what's marked as States Exhibit 25, 125. I'm sorry, and I'm going to focus on the forensic anthropology part of your testimony. Fair to say, you indicated on direct that you are a professor and you said forensic anthropology, but your resume, this is a current version of your resume, is it not?
Correct.
So I just want to make sure that in terms of your academic positions right now, you are a professor at the School of Health and Rehab Sciences and the College of Medicine. And your screen is a touch if you'd like to use it as well. Do you see that?
Yes.
And then it is in the Department of Anthropology. Do you see that?
I do.
Okay. And then the director of the graduate programs, correct?
Correct.
And then you have your position in the research laboratory, which is in the Biomechanics Research Center.
Correct.
And in fact, your work in this case is under the larger umbrella of biomechanics. Is that fair to say?
That's fair.
Just want to go now to, and those are your current positions as a professor. Is that right?
Correct.
I want to go to the classes. Give me one moment, Your Honor. This is double-sided. Can you help me find the classes? Sorry. I'm trying to find the classes. Maybe you know the page to direct me.
Close to the end.
Teaching experience. Thank you. Page 25 of your resume. You've got, this is again, current copy of your resume. You would agree, and let me scoot it up so we're sure to see the full page of 25, that of these courses, in terms of your teaching experience, the only one that even says the word forensic is the Intro to Forensic Science 3211. Isn't that correct?
Wow.
That's correct.
None of these classes are
Oh
in
no.
She uses an
let alone
intro class?
forensic
Intro
anthropology,
class?
correct?
Oh, that's
Correct.
bullshit.
That's her
And
expertise.
A
going back to
100
page
level
26,
class?
because I know that
Holy
you're teaching,
shit.
Oh
coursework
no.
26, and I want to make sure that I'm not missing anything with respect to your teaching. There's no classes in forensic anthropology, correct?
Correct.
You, and again, I guess I just top of 27.
She should have been disqualified as a witness.
Where it does appear is that there was a presentation
Yeah.
at a CLE. Would you agree with me on that? Sorry.
And
I'm sorry,
all
what was
their
Yep, let me get
all
the page.
their expert
The double side.
testimonies based on her report.
Oh shit.
All of
So
it.
that's where they got the
With respect to
fractures.
the
She's the
forensic
only one that looked at
coursework,
the bone.
or I'm sorry, the casework that you talked about. I just want to make
Wow.
sure I heard your testimony right.
That's probably why the attorney's coming at it so hard.
Your
Is
work is
'cause
research.
you could end the whole
And
case
then
right
you
here.
talked
Right
about
here.
articles that you've
Yeah.
done, presentations that you've done, so that would be in that 10% bucket, right? Outside of research.
No, the presentations, publications, and funding are all considered part of research.
And that's in the 90%.
Correct.
With respect to the questions that you were asked about cases where you've
Nobody
been
stays awake in an
consulted
intro
for
class.
forensic
I did.
work, forensic anthropological
I did.
services. Your testimony was about 50 to 100 times you've made contributions. Does that sound accurate as to what you testified to?
Yes.
You remember that when we met, I had asked you if you'd ever worked on a criminal case before. Do you remember that?
No.
Do you remember that you talked about? Well,
How
you've never
far
worked on a
away was
criminal
she
case before, have
found?
I have.
You have.
Again?
Is that listed in your resume? That case?
2 football
No.
fields.
Have you ever been qualified as an
Okay.
expert
200
in forensic
yards,
anthropology
maybe?
in a court?
Okay.
Oh shit.
Have you ever
Okay.
testified as a forensic anthropology in a court before?
I'm not sure.
One moment, Your Honor.
Very close.
Nothing further to this.
Right.
Like very, very close.
There you go fast.
Dr. Agnew, just so we're clear, can you tell us what forensic anthropology means? What is that?
Sure. It's a subfield of biological or physical anthropology, dealing with the biology of the human condition, essentially. Forensic simply meaning as a subfield of that it's in a medical legal context.
And so when you are performing work as a forensic anthropologist,
But
is
she's
it
not.
similar to the way that you examine
You haven't
skeletons,
performed
structures,
work.
and bones in the other parts of your
Similar, but it's
It's
not,
not
the
only
same.
similar, it's the assessment is almost exactly the same. The only difference is writing a case report that will be submitted.
And so
No.
that's the kind of work you do all the
No.
time and have done all throughout
That's-
your career. at
I know,
Ohio State
Bobby, you
and
booed me. I
things.
got it.
Yes.
And there are times in which you have, you said, contributed in forensic anthropology. Can you tell us who you've worked with or for in those
But
contexts?
she's
As I said, I've consulted with the Department of Homeland Security, with the Smithsonian Institute,
Consulted
Ooh.
with?
with here in
Yeah.
Ohio,
Whoa.
Ooh.
approximately 15 different counties that have requested forensic consultation, various coroner's offices, potentially medical examiners in other states, specifically New York City, BCI.
I've consulted with 30 different
recall
federal
the specifics of
agencies.
each
Does that
individual
make me a
case.
forensic expert?
yes.
Damn.
In
Generally
Ohio,
speaking,
it
when you
does.
do
I don't want it.
consultations, do you write a report?
Not always. Sometimes the consultation is requested simply to identify whether the remains are human or not, and if the outcome
That's
is that the
what
remains
she
are not
does.
human, in some cases a report is not requested.
Wow.
In
That's
If
bullshit.
it's a bone, they want to know if it's a human
Has
bone.
any
or
of
not.
your work in the field of forensic anthropology ever ended up in a court?
No.
So this will be your first time actually having to testify about any of the work that you've done.
Shit.
That's not good.
And so the forensic anthropology work that you did in this case.
Now
is
he's
the
starting
same
to
type of thing
stumble.
you've done
He knows it's not
dozens of
good.
times throughout your career
Mm-hmm.
examining skeletons.
That's correct.
At this time, I will again offer Dr. Agnew as an expert in the field of forensic anthropology.
I know your position. Ladies and gentlemen, as with all witnesses, when expert witnesses testify, it is your sole duty to determine the weight to give to the testimony of that witness. And so you look at each witness, including expert witnesses, accordingly.
How are they going to know?
Court will permit you to proceed forward.
Thank you.
Bullshit. Yeah,
Yeah,
they
I'd
don't know
like to talk,
what they can and can't do with it.
About what was asked of you in this case. So did you get involved in examining some remains that were found in the wooded area in Delaware County?
That was pretty weak by the judge.
It was not known to me
Yeah,
where the
that
remains were
was.
found. I was asked to assess remains.
Common, but weak.
Who asked you to assess
You
those
wait.
remains?
You wait and see what's
Dr.
coming up.
Hirschberger
man.
at
You
Montgomery
wait.
County.
And who was Dr. Hirschberger? at Montgomery County?
The coroner.
What specifically were you asked to look at by the Montgomery County coroner?
I was asked to assess a biological profile. It was my understanding at the time that the remains were unidentified. So a biological profile was requested to assess sex, age, stature, and population affinity. And additionally, then specifically, I was asked to prepare the remains and analyze them for any trauma present.
I want to talk generally before we talk about the specifics of this case, but if you're looking for trauma to bones, first of all, can you explain what trauma is?
Sure. Skeletal trauma to the bones in particular is any defect that's present on the bone from an external force.
And what do you do to examine a skeleton for signs of trauma?
Each bone is examined very specifically and usually using
really had
some
to
sort
think
of
about that
stereo
one.
microscope or some sort of equipment that can allow you to see more closely than what you can with the naked eye in every foramen or hole and in over the surface of the entire skeleton.
Based on your
The good thing is she doesn't
examination,
speak terribly
looking for
confident
trauma to
or well,
bones,
so
do
that
you opine
discredits
on the
her
cause or
in
Yeah.
manner of death?
the average
No, never.
juror.
That's outside of the scope of a forensic anthropologist's role.
Why is that?
That's generally left to the pathologist.
When looking for trauma to a skeleton, do you look for something about timing of trauma?
Yes, the interval is usually also assessed.
So generally speaking, can you actually let me approach this?
The timing of trauma? Come on now.
Agnew, I'm going to hand you what's marked as 126. Do you recognize that document?
Yes.
And generally speaking, what is it?
These are examples I provided, just publicly available images, examples of different timings for trauma.
And what states at 126 help explain to the jury these different trauma windows or intervals that we're going to talk about.
Yes.
And some of that's posted at 126. Is yours?
Really?
Doctor, I'm going to start at the top left. You've got 3 different words there. Can you tell us what those are?
Sure. Mortem simply means death. And so these 3 different prefixes indicate different timings for trauma relative to the time of death. Antemortem referring to a defect that occurred prior to death. Perimortem referring to a defect that occurred around the time of death. And then postmortem referring to damage to the skeleton that would have occurred after death.
So let's start with antemortem, and that's in blue. So is the picture in the blue box in the top right corner the one talking about antemortem trauma?
Correct.
Can you tell us what antemortem trauma looks like or how you determine that something is antemortem?
To classify a fracture as antemortem or occurring before death, it has to have evidence of healing. So those rounded edges that you see in the defect in that picture in the upper right-hand corner, that indicates that healing has occurred as the bone has responded in trying to fix itself.
Next, we want to talk about perimortem, and that's in red. So is that photo that's outlined in red the perimortem example?
Correct.
And can you tell us what perimortem trauma looks like?
Perimortem simply means that the defect, again, occurred around the time of death, and the characteristics that we would look for in that defect are that when the defect occurred, the bone retained its biomechanical characteristics that it would have in fresh bone. So those characteristics that are indicated here appear as jagged edges and a similar coloration throughout the bone.
And you mentioned around the time of death. What does that mean?
Around the time of death means that simply there's no healing
was a stupid
evidence
question.
on this perimortem defect.
Around the time of death, probably around the time.
Around the
of death.
time of death. Yeah.
Date
Right.
window.
Like,
If I was gonna
There's a
guess,
window of time.
And can you
Yeah, there's
explain
a lot of
for the jury
ambiguity in this.
Yeah.
The window refers to, again, when the
And-
bone is in
and-
its biomechanically fresh
Yeah.
condition. So that could be days before death if no healing has occurred, or days or months after death.
When you say the bone is, it's biomechanical, I lost the last. Can you explain that phrase to the jury? What are you talking about?
Absolutely. Bone is a dynamic living tissue in the body, and it's not only a hard mineral substance, but it has a lot of fluid in it as well, water, fats. And so it behaves viscoelastically, meaning it's not just a very brittle material. And so the characteristics that surround perimortem trauma are related to how the bone responds viscoelastically during the event that caused that trauma.
Okay, I don't know much
Viscoelastic.
about anatomy, but I think she made that word up.
Viscoelastic is a mechanical term referring to the bone's dependence on
I do, and
how fast
I know
it's
the
loaded,
words.
which is again related to the fluid that's inside the bone.
Let's talk about postmortem, and then maybe we can explain the difference. So what postmortem you have here in green, is that picture that's down in the bottom right corner, outlined in green, an example of a postmortem injury?
Yes, although I wouldn't classify it as an injury postmortem.
Trauma, I'm sorry.
It would be damage to the bone that occurred postmortem. And so those smooth edges and the stark difference in color between the outside surface of the bone and the inside, as shown there, would indicate postmortem damage to the bone.
Let me ask you if this is a good way to understand this. If I go and I try to break a branch of a living tree, does that break in a different way than if I take a dried out stick and I snap that rather than pulling something off a living tree?
She's
Yes,
not
that's
a
a good
too.
analogy.
She's not
The
a fucking
perimortem
arborist.
tree fracture with the jagged splintered edges
No.
is a good indication of what that branch, that living green stick branch, would have looked like when you tried to break it, versus something that was dry and brittle and no longer having those same properties as the branch when it was living would look like, or similar to the lower right-hand picture of the postmortem damage.
And
That's
so based
stupid.
on observing trauma to,
She's an
different skeletal
arborist
elements.
too.
Yeah, apparently.
based on your observations, you're able to
Are we going to get one of
classify
those in here too?
that trauma into one of these three different windows.
Yes.
Dr. Radu, can you tell us how you received the remains in this particular case?
The remains were received in a body bag.
And do you know where the remains came from?
A funeral home driver, if I recall, transported them from Montgomery County.
So you received them after they had already been to Montgomery County.
Yes.
So no, you don't know where they came from.
Hanging March, the March states at 127 and 128.
Funeral driver?
Because that's not where they came from. That
No.
might have been who brought them to you, but
Do you recognize
that's not
those
where
documents?
they came from.
Yes.
And generally speaking, can you tell the jury what they are?
Photos that were taken upon simply unzipping the body bag to see the remains in situ when they arrived at my lab.
And what does in situ mean?
In the condition that they arrived in before we did any analysis or any processing, sort of a pre-photo.
You could have just said as they arrived.
Oh no, in situ is a big college word. They love saying that, especially in my field.
127, can you tell us what's reflected here?
The tag that was accompanying the body bag.
And did it indicate tentative on that tag?
Yes.
And then State's Exhibit 128, can you tell us what we're looking at?
Again, these are the remains as they were when we unzipped the body bag.
You receive remains that are in condition as seen in Exhibit 128. Do you immediately get out your microscope and start looking at them?
No.
So what has to happen with the remains before you can begin your assessment?
First, we'll take pictures such as these and assess what we can visually without any processing. And then as a forensic anthropologist, the goal is to isolate the skeletal remains so that they can be assessed and examined in detail. So in order to isolate the bones, there's a process of processing essentially to remove all of the soft tissue so that only the bones are left.
Oh,
Generally speaking, can you describe what that process is?
There's numerous processes that can be undertaken to do that. In this case, we used maceration.
And what does that mean?
That means simply that we put the remains in this case, a room temperature water bath to soften up all of the soft tissue that had become mummified so it could be removed from the bones.
The AP beetles work too.
Let me show you what's
Beetles?
Mark says at 129.
Yeah, beetles are used sometimes.
Hey, what's Mark says at 129? Take a moment to
Flesh
look at
eating
that.
kind.
Do you recognize that photograph? Generally speaking, can you tell the jury what it is?
This is the skeleton after all of the soft tissue has been removed, laid out in general anatomical position.
As opposed to 129. Dr. Agnew, Tracy says about 129. Now that the jury can see, can you tell them what it is looking at here?
Yes, after processing and all of the soft tissue has been removed, the skeleton is laid out in anatomical position, and this is an overview photo of all of those elements.
Now, during this process, the bones were placed in a liquid,
Yes,
and the bones got wet during that time period.
yes.
Does the fact that the bones got wet again
I don't
in
think
any
I
way
like
impact
that.
your ability to see the types of trauma?
No, I'm not a huge fan of it.
No.
Can you explain that?
It's shock
The
and awe,
moisture
right?
content that's important in
Right.
this scenario is
It's
the
also
moisture that's there
supposed to be
when the defect
self-disturbing.
or when the fracture actually occurred.
I
Rehydrating
just
it
mean
later,
that
one will never
they
never make the bones go back to their
rehydrated the
original condition
bones.
because we can't
Like,
replace bone marrow and fat
don't-
in bone. And two, we're
don't
not
like that.
causing any fractures or damage to the bone after while they're wet. All of those defects
Yeah, you're
occurred
changing the
earlier
properties of
during
the
the event,
bone.
and that's when we're
Yeah.
and that's how we're assessing those fractures.
Yeah, I don't like that.
All right. Skipping ahead to the end, did you ultimately author a report in this case?
Yes.
My hand was marked as State Exhibit 130. If you take a moment to page through that, please. Do you recognize State Exhibit 130?
I do.
And generally speaking, what is it?
It's the forensic anthropology report for this case.
And you were the primary author of that report?
Beetles AP?
Yes.
Okay, this time it has to publish State Exhibit 130 to the jury.
Oh, it's deer skull.
Yeah.
Dr. I want to start with the top here. Can you tell us
The
what it is
maceration
looking at?
process or beetles?
Yes, this is the beginning of the forensic anthropology report.
Oh,
Does it indicate
beetles. Okay.
that you were requested that the remains undergo a forensic anthropological analysis, including a biological profile and skeletal trauma analysis?
Yes.
And is that what you conducted in this case?
Yes.
The next section of the report indicates a description of remains. Can you tell us generally what's contained in that section of the report?
Yes, it
feel
begins
like
with describing the
flesh-eating
remains as we receive them,
beetles would be
as
better
partially
than
skeletonized and mummified in this case, and then continues
Yeah,
to
rehydrating,
outline,
then
how we
dehydrating.
process the
Yeah,
remains,
that just I don't.
and
that doesn't sit
eventually
well with
then
me.
presents
Right.
the list of elements that were present versus not.
And so when you say elements, does that kind of mean what bones were there and what bones were missing?
Yes, bones and teeth.
Bones and teeth. What does it mean for something to be mummified and partially skeletonized?
That means that a lot of the moisture that's in the body has not been retained, and so it takes on a similar texture to a very, very dried leather, essentially.
And that was the condition of the remains that you had received in this case.
Yes.
Now showing you page 2 of the report. Can you tell us what it is that we're looking at here?
Yes, this is a diagram showing the inventory of bones that were present versus the overview photo that we saw before.
Page 3 of the report, does this reflect that biological profile that you were speaking about?
Yes.
And just generally speaking, what was determined with regard to the biological profile?
That the remains represented a middle adult female of European ancestry.
And top of page 4 of the report, what's listed under stature?
This is an assessment of how tall this individual would have been during life based on the remains.
Next, we want to talk about the trauma section. Let's start. I want to talk about perimortem trauma. And we'll show some photos and get more details here in a minute. But generally speaking, can you tell the jury where you observed perimortem trauma on this skeleton?
The majority of the perimortem trauma or those fractures that occurred around the time of death were in the neck region, with some additional on the face.
Where specifically in the neck? What elements or structures did you observe perimortem trauma?
The hyoid bone, which is very high in the neck, sort of underneath your jaw, as well as the laryngeal cartilages that surround your voice box, essentially, a little bit lower than the hyoid in the neck.
And those are two separate structures in the neck?
Yes.
Is the hyoid bone connected to anything? Any other skeletal elements?
No, the hyoid is one of the only bones in the skeleton that does not directly touch any other bone in the skeleton. It's suspended by ligaments, and it has numerous muscle attachments that help with breathing and speech, but it does not articulate with any other bone.
You also mentioned generally some perimortem trauma to the face. Can you tell us generally what that was?
Yes, there was some perimortem trauma on the nasal bones and around the nasal aperture, or where the nose is on the face.
What did you do to examine these bones and determine whether the trauma you were seeing was perimortem?
It is.
Or something else?
We used a stereo microscope that allowed us to essentially zoom in, like with a magnifying glass, to look at the features of the fracture very, very specifically, because these are such small structures.
And can you tell us what a stereoscope microscope is? Can you describe that for the jury?
It's essentially a fancy magnifying glass.
And does that allow you to see
Wow,
things you may
great
not be able to
description.
see with the naked eye?
Yes.
During your assessment of skeletal trauma, do you also attempt to take photographs or document your findings?
Yes, of course.
And is it always possible to see as well in photographs what you can see when looking through a stereoscope?
No, of course not. Photographs are two-dimensional in nature. So what I can see with my eye, the naked eye, or through the stereo microscope would be three-dimensional and allow me to move the bones to see them from all different angles with different lights. Something that cannot be depicted as well on a two-dimensional photo.
Dr. I'm going to hand you what's in March 6th. It's 131 through 135. You take one look at those photographs. Dr. do you recognize those photographs?
Yes,
Generally speaking, what are they depictions of?
the hyoid bone.
Now, this time it has to publish these exhibits 131, 135.
Objection.
Dr. I'm now showing you what's in March 6th, exhibit 131. Can you tell the jury what it is that we're looking at here?
This is a superior view of the hyoid bone, or if you were looking at it from above and looking down on it, how it sits in the body.
And how many fractures are present here in the hyoid bone?
2.
And you can draw on the screen if you could. Can you draw where those fractures are present?
Those bones don't go together.
Is the entire hyoid present here?
And
in this
one's
photograph?
missing.
No, it's not.
Can you tell
Yeah.
us what is not present?
The right side greater horn is missing.
Yeah, on that.
So that would be here. So that
Well,
the structure
I'm
would be
on
if it were
our
complete,
left,
more
on our
symmetrical
right.
than it is now.
Those two, it doesn't look
Where would
like
you
they go
describe the
together.
location of the two
And
fractures?
those
that
bones
present
are
on
the size of a fingernail, like your pinky fingernail.
They are in the,
Oh,
the greater
really?
horn of the hyoid.
Yeah, they're very small. I know they
And the
look like
greater
there's
horn
some
being
sort of.
the
They're very small.
like in terms of pieces that are sticking
Huh.
off the end,
This area.
as in not in the center or in the middle, but they're on the sides.
Correct.
Show you state exhibit 132. Can you tell the jury what it is that we're looking at here?
This is a stereo microscope photograph. So again, essentially looking through the magnifying glass of the fracture margins of that hyoid fracture on the left side. Both pieces are present here.
And then states exhibit
Yeah,
133.
they don't look like they go together.
That same fracture, but with the separate pieces a little bit closer together
And
to
they're two different
visualize
color.
how they
That's
would
an issue.
be if the structure was complete.
Yeah, there's coloration issues with the bones
Yeah.
because
And
she bleached them.
Now showing you states
Oh,
exhibit
that's right,
134.
that's right,
Can
she
you tell the jury
bleached
what we're
them.
looking at here?
Yes,
She
this is
bleached
the
those.
fracture margin on the other
Yeah.
side of the hyoid.
And why would you do that? You're tampering.
Because you don't know what you're doing.
And then,
Yeah.
Because you want to make it
show
look
you states exhibit
look a certain
135.
way.
Yeah.
You want it to look
Right.
white. So it's like
This is
And they're not-
again the same
you're not-
overview picture
They don't
of
even- they
the
don't
whole
even do
hyoid
that
that was present
easily.
in the middle.
Yeah.
with the arrows indicating.
No, you shouldn't, because
close-up
you're
of those
you're
fracture
tampering
surfaces
with it.
for each side of the hyoid. And the picture in the upper right-hand corner is from an anatomical textbook showing the location of these structures in the neck, essentially. So the hyoid bone is colored in light brown, indicated up there, with the red lines showing the general location of the fracture, both fractures in this case.
Yeah, Ghost Street, I get they overlap
And you've labeled this
slightly.
in red as
It's not a
being
perfect match.
Perimortem trauma.
Correct.
She
Can you tell
is
us how
an
you determined
academic,
this
so she
trauma
wants
was
them to
peri-
look pretty for a paper.
Right.
Yes,
That's
the
right.
fracture margins or the edges of the fracture are very jagged in nature, indicating that this fracture occurred while the bone was still in its
100%
biomechanically
she wrote
fresh
a paper on
condition.
this. I'll look for it. But
Well, chat's saying they match. I don't feel like they do, but okay. I'll agree to disagree.
Right now, I'm going to hand you things at 136 and 138. If one flip those over. Do you recognize those photographs?
Yes,
And generally speaking, what are they?
those are stereomicroscopic images of the fractures to the laryngeal cartilage.
And what is the laryngeal cartilage?
The laryngeal cartilage is the large cartilage as part
It's
of
not
your
a cat's
larynx
mouth figure.
that on the
It's
very
a
front of it,
portion of
usually in males,
Neck
has
without the
a more prominent feature, and
the
that's what
skull.
the general public refers to as their Adam's apple. So that's that same structure. It is a cartilaginous structure, but in many cases it can turn to bone. That's not an abnormal process per se, and so it had started to turn to bone or ossify in this individual.
So going back to page 4 of your report, you wrote the ossified thyroid cartilage. So can you tell the jury again, what does that mean for this cartilage to be ossified?
It just means that it had turned to bone.
And generally speaking, how does that occur, or why does that occur?
It's an age-related process, but it's very variable between people, and many different structures in the body that start as cartilage can turn to bone, including the cartilages on the front of the chest wall that attach to the ribs. And it's also very common for many of the cartilages in the larynx to turn to bone with age as well.
Would you characterize that as a normal process?
Yes.
That's the published things of 136 and 138 to the jury.
Matt, was she in her 50s?
36.
52.
What is it? Looking at?
52? Okay.
Yes, this is one of the superior horns or the projections that stick up off of the top of the laryngeal cartilage, indicating a fracture in that horn.
Actually, let me show you that. First of all, at the top of page 5 of your report, are those photographs listed there the ones we talked about with regard to the highway bone?
Correct.
Now, the bottom of page 5 of your report, are those photographs the
Did you see those
ones
pictures?
depicting the
It doesn't look like they
ossified
match there.
Correct.
And so, states of 136 is up on the overhead. Can you tell, based on your report, which side that is, which superior horn that is, left or right?
I can't recall just for looking at that picture.
Does your report indicate under those figures there which one is the left and which one's the right?
Yes, so that would have been the left.
States of 136 is the left greater horn of the thyroid cartilage.
Correct.
Did I say that all right?
Yes.
I'm going to show you states of 137.
Chat's turning on
Can you
me.
tell us what it is that we're looking at here?
normally,
That is
Yeah.
also a fracture in the thyroid cartilage.
And is that
I'm gonna be getting booze.
other greater horn of the thyroid?
if I said they
Correct.
didn't match, they would go along with it. But
I know.
I won't compromise my
I'm going to show you
credibility like that.
138. And you tell the jury what it is that we're looking at.
Yes, this is those same photographs indicated on the screen, but in the context of the same anatomical depiction in the right upper hand corner showing
According to
the thyroid
when they were
cartilage,
broken.
which is that big structure in the middle, again with the red lines indicating the location of those fractures.
And so with regard to the thyroid cartilage.
But we don't
how many
know if it
fractures
was
are present?
fractured before or after
Well,
they
actually, this is
they went through the
135.
maceration process.
Or
In
when they
total,
cut them
based on
down,
your
or
examination,
Mhm.
these structures in the neck,
There's a lot of
how many
different
total fractures were present?
There were 4 distinct
scenarios in why they could have been
Because
fractured.
bones, perimortem trauma hold on to
Dr.
those
Agnew, you also,
characteristics for so long. That's why they say around death, because they don't know.
Is there
They
any
can last.
word to
Yeah.
describe,
They can break up
those
to up to a
fractures,
year and look like
Wow.
perimortem trauma,
when there's
and it
Mhm.
could it would be post trauma, right?
Right.
If I send you the highway broken
It's
on
just
both
there's
sides,
too much
how
ambiguity. She was-
Yeah.
From an anatomical
This was
perspective,
4
we would call
months
that
after
bilateral.
she
And so what is
killed herself.
bilateral?
So
Bilateral just means in
Yeah, and that
in
yeah.
elements
those
and
bones could
structures
have got
that have
broken while she was being
symmetry
moved
on both
around,
sides.
absolutely.
For example, your left and right hand. When something
And we know they
occurs,
didn't take
on both sides relatively
specific
equally,
care
we would refer
with
to it
cutting her
as
down
so in this
or
case,
moving
the
her or
horns
No,
anything
of the
like
hyoid
that.
we just-
and
we
the
just
thyroid both experienced
held her back
bilateral
like this.
fractures.
So
It was
Right.
a
Come on.
suicide.
essentially 2 fractures on the left
Yeah.
side.
They
and
they
two
didn't think
fractures on the
anything
right
of it, bro. Like,
Correct.
they were just
Yeah.
like, whatever.
Did you also examine the face?
Yes.
Fast group, yes. I've broken a glass and it doesn't. I don't have all the pieces. I get what you're saying. I'm just saying, in my opinion, I feel like they don't
139
match.
to 142. Take one look at those. Do you recognize those photographs?
Yes.
And generally speaking, can you tell the jury what they are?
Those are photographs taken at various angles of the face.
I got this time asked to publish these at 139 through 142.
Okay.
Dr. Agnew, I'm not showing you these at 139. Can you tell the jury what it is that we're looking at here?
Yes, this is a photograph close up to the front of the face in this direction. So the eyes are here, and what we see here is called the nasal aperture, or where the nose is in the center of the face, looking straight on from an anterior view or frontal view.
I'm not showing you exhibit 140. Can you tell us what it is that we're looking at here?
This is a close-up photo of the nasal bones, essentially looking down on top of the nose from this direction. So a superior view, looking down.
And I want to show you exhibit 141. Can you tell us what it is that we're looking at here?
Yes, these are those same images, but with some arrows indicating different timing of fractures.
So let's talk first of all about the blue arrows. What are those blue arrows?
All of the blue arrows are indicating locations where a fracture was identified that was antemortem. So there was evidence of healing in all of those, which can be seen by the rounded edges and where the fracture margins have come together and essentially repaired themselves.
And then there's another area with a red arrow. Can you tell us what it is that we're looking at there?
The red the red arrow is indicating a location of perimortem trauma. So again, it has those jagged edges that can be seen there, and there's no indication of healing. There's none of those round edges that are observable in antemortem or healed trauma.
It's
So
really
you're able to
important.
see both.
Yeah.
See all the blue? That's
Mhm.
antemortem
Able to see
trauma.
both
That's not-
perimortem
when you break
trauma
your nose, that's what it looks like
and
when you break your
Antemortem
nose.
trauma.
Right.
There's
Oh.
one spot
Yes.
right on the margin. Where's all the rest of the damage if she
Yeah.
broke her nose?
Right.
Look at it. See all the blue marks? That's all. That's what happens when you break your nose. She broke her nose when she was a kid, and it healed. So it's antemortem trauma. And they're looking at one. I think they find another piece that's like that is on the
Yeah.
ridge too. That's like, and they're like, hey, there's more trauma.
I did. It was duplicative of 141. So
So they're trying to say that it was an assault, that somebody harmed her before.
do you
she
recognize
was-
those photographs?
Yes.
And generally speaking, can you tell us what they are?
They're gonna say
Those are
someone
additional photographs
caused
to
that
the face region
perimortem
simply from
trauma to
different
the
views.
ridge of the margin of her nose aperture.
Okay.
I'll show you
That one red
exhibit
point,
142.
arrow.
Could you order
Yeah.
the jury as to what it is we're looking at here?
Yes, this is a lateral photograph or a photograph from the side of the face. And so again, this is the eye and this would be the nose here. And so we're looking at the left side of the face.
I'm showing you Stacy exhibit 143. Can you tell the jury what it is that we're looking at here?
This is an extremely close-up view, again, of the side of the face, focusing on the area around the nose. So again, the nose would be out here in this general region. That was a terrible drawing. I apologize.
Then I want to show you Stacy exhibit 144. Can you tell us?
I
what it
don't
is
like
that
her.
No, I don't
Yes,
like
these
her
are
at
those
all.
same photos with a reference, again, from an anatomical textbook in the upper right-hand corner. And the red
red
arrows
arrows
are again
again.
pointing to evidence of antemortem or healed trauma versus perimortem trauma.
And so again, blue arrows being antemortem, red arrows being perimortem.
Correct.
This arrow in this location in the picture that I'm circling, is that a reference to that same injury that was previously shown on Stacy exhibit 141?
Yes, that's that same region.
And then the other arrow that's indicated in the photo on the left is this other area of injury that you've noted on this exhibit.
Yes.
So two different locations of perimortem trauma.
Did she have work done on her nose?
Correct.
No.
Okay.
Not that
And
I
again,
know
can you tell us?
There
what
was
the
a
difference is
question
between-
about it.
Let's talk about the picture on the left. The difference between the area where you've drawn the blue arrows versus the area where you draw the red.
Yeah, the area where the blue arrows are pointing, again, shows those rounded edges in this area here where the healing process has started, as opposed to the area down here with the red arrow where there's no healing and sharp edges along that border.
Dr. Agnew, showing you page 6 of your report. Some of those photographs here with circles rather than arrows appear also in the original report that you issued.
Yes.
During your review of the skeleton, did you also note any?
Yeah,
antemortem?
Ghost Street. The professor has 0 real world experience.
Yes, the antemortem trauma was indicated with
Yeah, this
blue
is the
arrows
kind
on
of
the
person you go to a
previous,
conference and
pictures, and there were other instances
they're
throughout the body
bragging
of
about everything that
pre-existing
they've
trauma
done,
that had
and then you
healed.
say,
Yeah.
"Well, what have you
Dr.
actually
Speaking,
done?"
remember any of those
Well, I
that
wrote
you observed in this?
72
I think
papers.
there was a
No, I mean,
previous
what
ankle
have you
injury that
actually
had healed,
fucking
as well
done?
as some rib fractures.
Yeah, I wrote 72
Let's
papers.
talk specifically about the ankle. Showing you page 9 of your report. Can you tell us what it is that we are looking at here?
These are x-rays taken of the fibula on the top and the tibia on the bottom from the right leg. These bones in life articulate with each other. So the injuries that are indicated with the red arrows in this case are consistent with each other in terms of their location.
And then you note evidence of previous hardware in the red circle. Can you tell us what that is?
Yes, it is very hard to see from this photo, but there was evidence of an advanced mineralization in the form of circles that does show up on the x-ray, despite it being hard to see here, that suggested that there was some sort of previous hardware or something in the body that the bone responded to.
What do you mean by hardware? What's an example of
A
hardware?
plate and screws, if an injury called for that.
So if somebody had a previous ankle injury, there are times when someone will get screws or a plate inserted to help with the healing process.
Yes, that's
and
common.
that can be removed later on.
Yes.
I'll sustain that.
So
Good objection.
There was no actual
Yeah.
hardware present, just signs in the bones that had been there previously.
Correct.
It's okay. This is not my field, so I have very little to add as well.
Dr. Agnew, I'm showing you page 10 of your report under conclusions. And you can tell
I've had anatomy and physiology.
Yes, the conclusions were that the bioprofile indicated a middle adult female of European ancestry that sustained perimortem trauma to the neck and face, as well as had evidence of antemortem trauma and some minor systemic reactions in the bone throughout the skeleton.
And so
They
specifically,
need- they needed
with regard
that
to
facial
perimortem
trauma
you said that it was
to arrest
consistent
me.
with a
Without it,
traumatic event
Yeah.
involving
I
neck
never
and
would have been
face at or
arrested.
around the time of death.
Right.
Correct.
They needed her to say that to find that facial trauma. It doesn't exist.
Mark, this was provided at the start, but, you know,
Well, again, it's not out of the question to rule out that it happened when they cut her down, or
Mm-hmm.
One moment, Your Honor. If I can.
Because we have no pictures of
I
that.
do- I will probably go up to.
while she
Wait.
was out there, it could have been a bird, or I mean, hell.
They
animal.
went into that. They didn't. They had someone say that there wasn't any scavenging. But I mean, watch what she does. I mean, just that's why I haven't been saying anything, because I can't do better than Diane's about it.
No, yeah, she's good. She's great.
So it's me trying. I mean, wait
Yeah.
until you watch what she does with this lady.
You could say it was bone crushing.
Yeah.
Bad pun.
You would wait. This is the second time she's crossing me, right? The second one.
No, the first one.
Oh, okay.
This is the first. This is cross. So recross will be her second time.
Oh, I thought she already crossed it.
No, not yet.
I'm gonna go
She called her on her qualifications.
to
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
that's all she's
Oh, okay.
elected.
I don't know if you. Okay, yeah, I forgot about
You've been
that
asked a lot about biomechanics, and you've certainly heard me say no issue with you being having an expertise in biomechanics. Tell the jury what biomechanics is.
Biomechanics is essentially the study of how mechanically a material responds to forces, specifically biological material in the case of biomechanics.
So I know we talked about.
He sounds hella
your
more
teaching,
credible with that.
And we went over
already.
The fact that you actually,
Yeah. Way
one
better.
forensics class that you teach is in forensic science. I want to be clear though with the jury, so I understand your testimony. There is antemortem trauma, right? There is perimortem, and then there is postmortem, right?
Yes.
So there's the three different, and they're kind of like the evolution, right? Ante is before. We have perimortem, and as you testified to, perimortem could, when we say at or around the time of death, you would agree with me that that could be days from the time of death?
Correct.
That could be weeks from the time of death?
It's possible.
And even months are possible.
Also possible.
So at or around the time of death, days, weeks, or months, that could be included in that umbrella of things.
Yes.
And then separately, we have post-mortem, which is when the bone is dry.
Yes.
Doesn't
Like
have
it was
collagen
when they
in the
took her
bone, so it's no
down?
longer wet, it's just dry,
Right.
right? Sort of that last phase.
It's dry, but it likely still has collagen in it.
But it's dry, we can just agree on that.
Yes.
I listened twice, and of course, I know that jurors are listening well, but I heard it first time, and then at 11:06, I wrote it down in your testimony. Let me get to it. That you indicated that perimortem was indicated, and specifically with exhibit 135. Thank you. You used the word jagged. Do you remember that? I'm
Yes.
showing you what's been marked as exhibit 135. If you could dim the lights again, thank you. I would appreciate it. Do you remember using the word jagged?
Yes.
And then you used it earlier in your testimony, did you not, to discuss perimortem trauma and observations about jagged edges? Do you remember that? You used the word twice. Is that correct?
Likely.
So I want to talk about, I presume
Likely?
you're familiar with Dr. Heather Garvin.
I know of her.
I presume that you are familiar with the Forensic Anthropology Introduction textbook authored by Christensen in 2019.
Yes.
You are familiar with this?
In general.
Okay, and I'm
God, I
showing
hope
the,
that's the book she uses for her class.
what has been
Right?
marked as
That'd be
defendant's
great.
exhibit DB. It's page 415. At the top, it says, is it not 13.3? You see that? Just trying to orient the jury. You see that?
Mhm.
Let's go down here to the area that I have highlighted. Do you agree with me that right here it starts with talking about biomechanically fresh bone? And then it goes on to say evidence of perimortem trauma includes plastic deformation, hinge fractures, staining on the bone associated with hematoma. Do you see that?
Yes.
Evidence of perimortem. Let's read this section right here. Compared to post-mortem fractures, it says, does it not, fresh bone fractures are often straighter, where dry bone fractures tend to have, and what does it say?
It says tend to have a more jagged appearance.
Ooh.
Dry bone, post-mortem, not perimortem, right? When we're talking about the definitions of each.
Is there a question?
There is dry bones, post-mortem.
Correct.
I'm gonna go back through.
Is there a
Your
question?
report.
Yes, I'm ripping you
It is
apart right
marked
now.
as-
Just hold up and I'll get to it.
Wait till they get to the stuff that I actually
States Exhibit
understand.
130. Can you zoom out? Fair to say this is a copy of your report that was submitted on January 11th, 2021.
Yes.
And I know you testified to, and I wrote down that you were the primary on the report.
Oh,
Just
wait till you
wanna
hear
go-
this, man.
To the last page, if we could.
She went out to the scene.
First signature
Oh,
on the
shit.
report is Angela Hardin, is it not?
Yes.
And second signature is yours.
I wouldn't call them first and second, but they're both present.
And I'm just wondering.
That's a
because
paper
there's two
thing.
Signatures, and we
Wouldn't
know
say the
from your
first or
resume,
second. They're
I think it's
present.
Page 17, where you list Angela Hardin as being one of your students. Is
not.
that right?
That's correct.
So were you functioning in a peer review capacity in this case?
Yes.
You were.
Oh, she
So
already
Angela
interacted
Hardin
it
is
as a
actually doing the
review.
work, and you're functioning
Mhm.
as a peer in a peer review capacity.
Not only in a peer review.
You would agree with me that a peer review
Oh, fuck.
is
That's
you
not
talked
good.
about it with respect to your journal publications, where you write something and then you submit it for peer review, and people kind of weigh in and give their thoughts and then send it back to you.
Mhm.
So it's your testimony, though, that your function in this case was in a capacity of as a peer review.
Not in the same sense of reviewing a journal article. In this sense, it was a collaboration of both of us contributing. Of course, since she was my student, I double checked all of her work. In that sense of peer review, yes, I peer reviewed her
Wow.
contributions to this case.
Because did you want me to-
Yep.
I don't believe the addendum report was marked during your direct. I'm happy to mark it now. It's Defendant's Exhibit CC.
She should have disclosed that.
There is an
from the
addendum
beginning.
report to the work that was done by your department. At the
Well, they
request of
weren't
Montgomery County Coroner's Office.
going
They're not.
to.
Yes,
I just want to make sure I'm not missing, showing you 4 of 4, that your signature does not appear in the addendum.
it does not. She received her PhD at that point.
And you preempted my question, because on this report, January of 2021, the reason why there's a peer review issue is because she's not a PhD.
I would not agree that there's a peer review issue.
She's not a PhD when your initial report is issued. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Wow.
So let's go
Mhm.
through the report.
Doesn't look good.
You would agree with me that you understood at the time of doing your work in this case that being accurate was very important.
Of course.
And I'm assuming that you approach all of your work that way, right?
Aaron, not like
It's accurate that you're
BFF,
consistent
but
with
like
terminology, right? It's accurate that you're consistent with findings.
coworker.
Other scientists
And I
in the
presume
field,
that you have
Yeah.
reviewed your report multiple times for any
other scientists that
inconsistencies or
study
inconsistencies. And if there
relevant
were any
and
inconsistencies, you would have fixed it.
similar topics.
Is that right?
Yeah.
If there were any meaningful errors, they would have been corrected.
Okay. Let's go through this.
Oh, you're kidding? Thanks.
Well, I'm gonna skip around, which won't surprise anyone. I'll just go right to this, on the heels of me asking that question. I'm gonna make sure we're straight here. Trauma section, showing you what's been marked page 4 of 10 of your report. You would agree with me that that first paragraph and first sentence is dealing with perimortem trauma.
Yes.
You see that? You were asked questions about the nose. Just so we're clear, for a visual for the jurors, nasal bones are up top here.
Correct.
The maxilla is what we're talking about, the sides.
Correct.
The aperture is the opening, right? And then right here, we've got what would be called the nasal spine.
Correct.
Perimortem trauma. I just want to make sure I'm reading your report right. You don't list in that first paragraph any perimortem trauma to the right maxilla.
Oh no.
You see that?
Mm.
It's kind of hard to see with all of the red lines on there.
Sure.
It does not appear so, no.
So she didn't see it when
It's
she was
on your
writing the
screen.
paper,
I can clear it.
Sure.
Right.
You can see your report on your
but
screen.
she saw it
Yes.
after she got
So
the
why don't I zoom in
check
so I
from
can
the
help see it?
prosecutor.
So I just want to
Exactly.
know if in this first sentence you see right maxilla, perimortem trauma.
Some shady shit, brother.
And I just asked you that question about inconsistencies. Let me be
This-
more clear.
The real shade
Down
is
here,
coming.
this-
Wait,
the bottom
it's
screen.
coming.
The left and the right nasal bones and left and right maxilla demonstrate both perimortem.
This,
See that?
this is just like
Yes.
procedural
So,
mistakes
And going
by
back to the
the,
inconsistencies,
by
I
the
mean, this
doctor.
whole
By,
forensic analysis.
Exactly.
it wasn't girl.
Is to look at trauma, right? Is there antimortem?
That's kind
perimortem,
of
or
nefarious
postmortem?
coming from the
And here
paper
we're
point of
already
view.
Learning that
It's-
in one
it's-
area, you say there is no
In
perimortem
layman's
to the right
terms, it's
maxilla.
not
And then on the same
as
page, 4 paragraphs later, you say there is.
as
No, it says
ridiculous,
there's both
but it's
perimortem
it's
and
fucking
antemortem trauma
shady
present.
from
So
the
it's
from the
Okay.
academic paper.
Perimortem trauma was observed on the
perspective.
following skeletal elements. Tell me where you see right maxilla in that first paragraph.
Right.
It does not say right maxilla in that paragraph.
Wow.
Tell
There's
me
some
in your
maceration
report
going on here.
Where the pictures that you've been shown. Well, let me show you your report. We'll go to this. Come on. Here we go. This is page 6 of 10. you remember this in your report?
Yes.
Now, going back to your report and the accuracy of it. You included on page 6 of 10 those 4 photographs, did you not?
I cannot see the page number on this.
Let me. May I approach, Your Honor? State's Exhibit 130, so that you can refer to your report. Thank you. If you need it.
I love how she gets those jabs in there.
6 of 10. Do you see those photographs there?
She's so low key about it, though. Not
Right.
even the judge
Yes.
is like taking up. It's great.
These circles right here. What is picture D depicted?
Picture D is showing antemortem trauma
To what area of the face?
to the right maxilla and nasal region.
So I just want to make sure, that again, and let me scroll up so I can be sure about this. So this right here is the right maxilla.
Correct?
You would agree with me that this picture C is the nasal bones?
Correct?
This is the left maxilla, picture B,
Correct?
and this picture A is the aperture.
Correct?
So in your report, in picture D, you are circling antemortem trauma.
Yes, absolutely. Which is what the words said on the first page. That there was
Well, there's a
antemortem.
difference on your trauma section about whether there's peri or antemortem in the right maxilla.
The second statement was a general statement referring to both perimortem and antemortem. So I don't see the inconsistency.
So your testimony is that there is no perimortem trauma whatsoever to the right maxilla.
Correct?
I'm gonna, as we toggle back and forth, your report start
Seamless.
from the beginning. You were shown.
Yep,
She's seamless, right?
absolutely.
Sounds like on to the next thing.
1 second.
Oops.
You were shown
Okay.
State's Exhibit
Wait.
127.
You see what's coming.
And this appears a zipper right here. So this tag is on the outside of the body bag. Does that seem to
I don't recall.
have shown you what's been marked as 128? If I could zoom in here. Do you see that there is a bracelet around the remains left wrist? Do you see that?
I see the bracelet. I cannot determine what anatomical structure it's on from this photo.
It's a bracelet.
Right.
I
She
challenge
does
anyone
not
to
have
say
the
otherwise.
temperament to be a witness.
If you recall,
An
I
expert
will work to
witness.
find it, but here we go.
I'm no
I'll mark this.
anthropologist, but a bracelet usually goes on the wrist.
That's exhibit DD. Appear to be, a different view of what we were just seeing in State's Exhibit 128. Do you agree with me on that?
Yes?
I want to zoom into what the bracelet. It says tentative, and do you see how it says noble there?
Yes?
And then WF52. Do you see that? Have
Yeah.
we clear?
Yes?
So as the remains arrive, it's consistent with the tag on the outside, Emily Noble, tentative, white female 52. And then there's also a bracelet on, you can't identify, but would you agree that this is the skull?
Yes.
And there's a bracelet right here that is has indication that it's a tentative identification of Emily Noble. Do you see that?
Correct.
So going back through your report.
That's a good question, Digger. He's answered it before, but I'll let him go again. Matt, how did you get this bulldog lawyer? Did you find her? Was she appointed, recommended by a friend?
Yeah. This is kind of neat. A friend of mine from high school, his brother did 19 years for a murder that he did not commit. He was one of the first people to get exonerated because of DNA. He knows
wow.
Barry Scheck. I'm in this, and while the investigation was going on, a friend of mine said, "Do you remember so-and-so from high school? You should call him." I mean, he was part of getting his brother out of there. His brother did all those years. And so I called
Holy
him
crap.
and we remembered each other. He was a grade older, I think. And he's like, "Hey, there's a guy in town, right in Columbus we were at. His name is Martin Yant. He's a private investigator and he hates cops." So I get a hold of this guy and he's like,
You're like
in the
ding,
first
ding,
meeting-
ding.
first thing, and I met his older guy. He's come over to my house. He's like, listen, man, you're gonna need a real lawyer, because at the time I just had a friend. I didn't even hire him. He's just helping me. He was like a civil attorney. He wasn't a criminal lawyer. You know, he's like, you're gonna need a real criminal defense attorney. So he told me about Court Gatterdam, who's just the guy in town. Court Gatterdam knew Diane, and eventually Diane found out about my case. That Husel case ended, and she got on board. So it's just like a thing of events, and
Right.
It just
the perfect
happened.
storm.
Yeah, worked out.
Wow. We didn't hear that story.
Yeah, we did.
I mean,
He
I
told
think
it-
once she heard about my case, and she's just like, no, I want this, because I was innocent. She knew it, and everybody was telling her. I mean, for someone that good at doing what she does, I mean, this was just she was having fun. Maybe she doesn't look like she was having fun, but I saw her. She was laughing during the trial. She was having a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun for her to do it, which she did to these people. There wasn't, you can just tell she's a different caliber of lawyer than the prosecutors are. So, I lucked out.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, he might have told that over on alternate corner, because he's over there too.
Yeah, we
Saturdays.
didn't discuss the friend part.
No, I've never. It's like pieces of my book come out little by little.
Yeah.
But, you know what I mean? As I go, I hadn't mentioned that, but it's in the book. Most of that stuff's in the book. In my book.
That could have been where it was from. I remember hearing it. I just don't remember where.
Yeah, we didn't discuss it here.
Gotcha.
I don't know how that. I don't know how I got, but I mentioned Martin Yant in the book, and I mentioned my friend, and it was all like it just all fell into place. It was like a perfect thing, it was a perfect storm. It didn't have anything to do with me. I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
I have no clue. I was just sitting there.
And that's the other channel that Matt's on, Alternate Corner. There's some good guys over there. He does that on Saturdays. They're about a day behind us right now, but they do longer shows. I'm supposed to go over to his channel. Everybody knows I'm shit at getting back to messages.
Yes.
So...
Yeah, they did say that you were going to come on. We need a cop on there, man.
Yeah,
we're talking like we know things about. We don't know. We don't know what's going on. We need a professional on there.
Happy days, Dylan.
Yeah, Dylan's awesome.
Yeah.
I have a DM unresponded in my Twitter. I will get back to it this evening.
Cool.
I promise everyone. So yeah, we'll get back to this. But I'll do it right now. I can multitask.
Yes, you can.
You talk on page 1 about the work that you did in this case, and you lay out the steps here in what is essentially 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Do you agree with me on that?
Yes.
And I want to make sure, though, that before any efforts were made to remove the soft tissue, that there was no trauma assessment done before that work was performed.
Not in the way that I've described the trauma assessment to this point, because much of the bone was covered in tissue. However, we did assess what we could see and what was skeletonized before any processing occurred.
Show me what's been marked as D or defense.
That's interesting.
Does this look like a fair and accurate depiction of what the skull looked like when it arrived?
I have no way to know. I did not take this photo.
And you don't have any independent recollection as to what it looked like when it arrived?
It was certainly in a different position when it arrived.
So fair to say what you recall is
True.
what you have photographed. Does that sound right?
What I examined and photographed,
I
yes.
can do that,
can't
and he's
type
not
and
paying
talk at the
attention.
same time.
Just kind of go through
So
the report and I'll try to do it.
if I
Is
could,
slender a word that you usually use?
so I'm going to go back to typing.
Yep.
It's a common generalized term to describe a skeleton as opposed to robust. Yes.
Going back to 3, part of the process that you do, is it not true, is that when you rehydrate the mummified tissue, the next step is that you manually remove the soft tissue from the skeletal remains, correct?
That's correct.
And that's indicated in 3 right there. Is that right?
Yes.
Just want to make sure here where you talked about the 24-hour period, it says submerged elements for 24 hours in a 1-to-1 ratio. of water peroxide. You would agree with me that in your summary, in your detailed report, it doesn't say for a maximum of 24 hours.
It does not say for a maximum of 24 hours. That is implied.
I'm going to go down here to where you talk about the foot bones. Showing you page 2 of your report. There's a number of bones in the feet that are missing when the remains arrive. Is that right?
Correct.
And that is depicted on these figures. That's the juxtaposition between those two figures.
There is no indication in the figure on the right about the phalanges or the toes. So that is only indicated in the overview photo on the left.
And when we say left, you mean this one. You tell the jurors, which photo is left to you? Sorry.
This one.
And so in terms of the toes that are missing, tell the jurors where that's shown.
Only in this photo.
And in the other one?
Done.
In the other one, if you push it up just a little bit, it says phalanges are not depicted. Oh, sorry, down to the figure caption. Correct. Dentition and phalanges not depicted.
This right here, right?
Yes, phalanges are referring to the digits of the hands and the feet in this case.
But then you have this red mark up here.
Yes, those are not phalanges.
And what's the red mark indicating?
The red marks indicate missing elements.
There's missing toes, right?
Correct.
Huh.
Yeah. Missing
This
toes.
sentence right here.
How does that
The
happen?
maxillary right and left second molars were removed
Well,
for
I
DNA
mean,
analysis.
her feet were
See
in
that
shoes.
freestanding sentence there?
Yeah.
So
Her
where
feet
would
were
they
in
have
shoes.
gone?
No, and that's what you included in your report, correct?
Yes, I included that in the report
Wow.
as written. It was verbally told to me.
But I want
They
to
just did a poor job
Wait, you gotta listen.
recovering the evidence.
I was not at the recovery scene for these remains.
You were there for the
That's what I thought you remembered.
addendum report.
When we visited, you said you were not there. So any witness that previously testified that in March of 2021 that you were at the recovery scene, that was not correct.
I was at the scene in
Holy
March,
shit.
which is
She was there.
associated with the addendum report.
Okay, so then
Addendum
let's talk
report.
about that. This sentence right here, the maxillary right and left second molars. were
Raccoon
removed from
bandits.
DNA analysis.
Listen,
That report is issued January of 2021, right?
Correct.
But we know that's not true because when there's the recovery work at the scene in March of 2021,
2022.
22?
I'm sorry, I would have to look at the date on the
Oh,
addendum report.
Oh,
That is
no.
the recovery for the addendum
Listen.
that I was at the scene for.
Addendum report is issued in
she
May
was
of 2021.
March 2021.
My apologies.
to
It's
best.
March 2021.
21.
Oh, sorry.
And they find
That was
one of
unintentional. That's fine.
Emily's teeth, one of her
So,
molars.
so now we have oriented. I just want to make sure because the sentence right here, and I'm just trying to go for
Wow.
accuracy. You know, do you not, that
for
actually
fuck's sake.
the maxillary right second molar was recovered from the scene when you were there in March of 2021?
Which was after this report.
No, right. So you said in your report that you thought those molars were out for DNA testing, but actually you
DNA
found one
testing.
of the molars in the soil.
The teeth
I
that
was told that the
Holy
molars were
shit.
removed for DNA
that
testing.
were taken out
So
of my
their
wife's
absence is noted in the initial report
DNA
as I
analysis
received the remains.
was
when I
found at
went to the scene,
in March.
One of those molars, I
2021.
think, was then recovered.
And I only pointed
Holy
out, have you
hell.
ever heard garbage in, garbage out?
How the fuck did that tooth get
You ever
there?
heard that expression?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the information in your forensic anthropological
Wow.
report is based on what someone else told you. Is
Unbelievable.
that right?
That's correct.
And you later learned to be not true because it's in the soil.
Correct.
Yeah, that's not a good look,
Sure.
bro.
Sure.
No.
Any gentlemen, take a lunch break. You remember to put that in.
Out of respect for our extra
That's-
time, can we not proceed to the vote?
Someone told her that the tooth was missing because it was out for DNA analysis, right?
Right.
That tooth was
Wow.
found at the scene 6 months later when she was there. She went to it. I mean, why was she even
Shit.
there?
So she was at the recovery scene to find the missing molar the second time?
Yeah, well, that's not why she was there, but they found the molar when she was there.
Oh,
Wow.
my.
Keystone Cops, man.
Yeah.
Someone put that tooth there.
It's starting to sound even more shady. Like
Someone
it was
put that
done
tooth there, bro.
intentionally.
How the fuck did it get there? A
Right.
tooth that she's doing a bone analysis, and then she's like, "Hey, there's a missing tooth. Yeah, we took that out for DNA analysis." That's what they do. They
Holy
take teeth out and they. Well, where's the tooth? Where is it? It's at the scene. How did it get there? I don't fucking know. You can't make this
Wow.
shit up, man. They
No.
don't know either because they're fucking dummies. They don't know.
That's
And
either
then when
ridiculous
it was all over,
incompetence.
I get this call from those people, and Emily wanted her body to get donated to science. That's just how she was. She's like one of those
Mhm.
girls, one of those
Mhm.
people. And
Yeah.
OSU said, no, we don't want them. Come and get them. And I was just like, no, she wanted to get donated to you guys. And they're like, no, we don't want them. They're your responsibility.
Jesus.
Come and get your wife. And I'm like, you look what you did to her. I mean, do I get the toe too? Do I get the tooth? What about all the flesh that you ripped off her bones? Do I get all that?
Right.
What
Yeah.
exactly? What do I get back? So I was just
Wow.
horrible.
Yeah.
And they didn't care. They could care less. Not OSU didn't even care about what the condition of her remains. They didn't care. I have no idea where her remains are. I have no idea to this day. Isn't that awful?
That's terrible. And that's
Yeah. It's disgusting, is what it is.
it's just lack of care, lack of compassion for
Right.
another person. I mean,
Right. I mean, that's a human, just
Right.
like them. Yeah.
They used her to get what they wanted, and once it was over and they didn't need her anymore, no one was going to spend any money to put her to do what they had to do to her.
Right.
No, they don't.
That's
You're right. They don't
bullshit.
care. And how did that tooth get there? How the fuck did that tooth get to the scene 6 months after? I mentioned
And-
in my book. I'm sure when you read your book, you're like, "What is this?" Because I can't.
Right.
I didn't even go into it. It's like you make up your mind. I don't know what to tell you. I have no idea how that tooth got there.
And it's not like it was around the corner, and like we're talking about Ohio State, which is at Columbus, and then what is it? It's probably half an hour, 40 minutes, maybe.
Yeah, it's the 30
Where
miles,
you were
40
at?
miles. I don't know how it's way down.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's way away. And the way they found it, they have a picture of it. I don't know what. Eventually, there's a picture that they took of it. Dude, it's like sticks and stuff, and like it was sitting on top of everything.
Holy
4
shit!
months
Oh, like
down
it
the
was
woods,
placed.
That tooth is gonna get way down in there. I mean, you know what I
Right.
mean? With all those,
Yeah.
it was sitting right up on top of everything. It was like they were up to something. They wanted to do something with it. There was I don't know, but you
Wow.
can't make it up. I don't know.
That's
But
bullshit.
Yeah.
it's just, what were they doing? Yeah, this lady, and then everything that they had expert wise is based on this woman's testimony. So that's where garbage in, garbage out. Everything after this lady's garbage.
Right.
Wow. No, that's horseshit because it doesn't just show up.
No,
It doesn't just show up.
if they could explain it, it would be one thing. But all my attorneys has to do is just show it, just expose it.
Yeah.
She doesn't have to explain to you what it's, So she's like, hey, look at all this garbage this woman produced, and the tooth shows up, and the toe, they don't know where anything is. It's just incompetency. So, and then
No, I mean
they didn't even bother to talk about it after, because they can't explain it, or they don't want to explain it.
Well, they don't want to explain it as the
right. And it's better for your attorney to just leave it. Like,
Don't go into
the
it.
mind will piece it together.
Just don't just that she does that. She did that all through the trial. She would sit and talk about something, and then she would just stop talking about it and then go on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Because it all gets explained at the end if she needs it. And she used like half of the stuff that she had in her final argument. But
Wow.
she didn't even mention the tooth in her final argument. But I mean, to me, that's conspiracy. That's conspiracy shit. It's like, what the
Right.
Yeah.
Like what? How did this happen? So.
Literally,
Yeah.
the molar that they took out at Montgomery, the Montgomery coroner's office, to send away for DNA analysis, ended up at the scene 6 months later.
That's insane.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Seems pretty
don't like that.
nefarious.
I mean, you can come up with if you're writing a book, like a mystery book, I mean, you could come up with a lot of neat ideas. I mean, they attempted to frame me for murder. They were going to use it, but they ended up couldn't use it. So it got slipped into the discovery somehow. I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's crazy. Huh. And there's no, I mean, I'm sure that if they were pressed, they'd make some shit up, but I can't think of a reasonable explanation to why it shows up 6 months later, an hour away, 40 minutes away. Like,
Yeah.
there's just not
And
a
she's and what's Agnew even doing there?
right.
She's a bone. I mean, what is she? Some sort of crime scene specialist or something? No, she's a bone doctor.
She's
Why is
not
she
even
at
a
the
bone
scene?
doctor. She's a fucking academic.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting at trial, wondering, trying to figure all this out, man, and I'm like, my head is going like, what the fuck is going on here? You know,
Right.
it didn't make any sense to me. None of this made sense. None of it. I mean, why do you have this lady on? Why am I in trial right now? You know, I just
Right.
want, and then when they get done with their experts and all their witnesses, the prosecution rests. So I was like, that's it? That's all you have? You literally ruined my life for what?
Right.
Shit.
Yeah.
So
Because they can. The unbridled power of the state.
money.
Yep.
They want to look relevant. You know, they want to make you think
Yeah.
that they're needed. Yeah, it's
Right.
government.
Yep. We need more money. We could have got him
Right.
if we had more money. He only got away because we didn't have this
Right.
toy. Like, it's bullshit.
Right.
It truly
It
is.
bullshit. I had a
Did they
podcast
say
with
that-
a guy this morning. His name's Art. He's real smart. He's a buddy of mine. He's thinking that, like, if you know the psychology behind like AI, artificial intelligence, and like the blockchain and all these things, these supercomputers that are figuring things out, and how they're gonna like the better of the AIs are gonna do, you know, get the job and like competition, things like that. I mean, can you imagine if law enforcement gets taken over by they're going to be, they have to like prove what they're doing. You know what I mean? That there's not this thing where they do these things with impunity. I think it's really kind of interesting that if you start thinking about like, all of a sudden people are going to realize we don't need these bureaucracies. You know, we don't need these big pieces of government. I mean, we don't need them anymore. Get rid of them.
No.
Right.
Absolutely.
So
No, they're garbage. I moved ahead, but I thought I moved ahead. I'm terrible at moving ahead. I'm worse at moving ahead than I am typing while talking.
With the medical examiner's opinion, I think it was a homicide of death. Your Honor, with respect to Dr. Smock's report, it was issued in May of 2021. The coroner in this county did not render a decision or an opinion as to cause of death until after Dr. Smock issues his opinion. So when he issued his opinion, the cause and manner of death was only from head and neck injuries. It was not, at any point in time prior to him issuing his report, manual strangulation. If the timeline makes sense on that. The Montgomery County Coroner's Office in January 21 says cause and manner of death, is head and neck injuries. That's in January. Smock issues his report in May, and then on September 16th of 2021, so a year exactly after the remains were issued, the Delaware County Coroner issues cause and manner of death as both head and neck injuries and also manual strangulation. So prior to Dr. Smock's, there is no medical examiner that says anything about
I finally got my death certificate. Remember in the book?
Homicide. He's not allowed to render an opinion as to cause of death.
Oh shit. Okay.
Your Honor, if I may,
Remember?
that's the timeline defense.
I'm waiting for a death
Wants to
certificate.
believe that it
Yeah.
occurred, but honestly, Dr. Hitchens,
Oh, you finally got it, though?
No, I'm saying
No, you still haven't got it.
it took Smock to
He's
come
the
in and say,
county coroner.
hey,
He is the Delaware County Coroner.
they needed
He's not a forensic
Smock to
Oh.
come in and be a gunslinger before they
He's
were
not.
going to give me a death
Oh
certificate.
yeah.
We are calling Dr.
Yeah,
Smock
no,
out
I
of order
gotcha.
because we're
I
running
got what
so
you're
far
saying.
behind. But prior to him testifying, if Dr. Hickman were to come in on stand, he would tell this court that when he received the reports in January, he believed the manner of death to be homicide.
That would be his testimony, the coroner says.
Delaware County Coroner Mark Hickman. He will tell you then, they get the report from Smock, and then it is a paperwork issue that takes so long to get this death certificate officially
And then
done and
this
signed later.
bullshit.
The paperwork issue is because
Paperwork.
the remains were at Ohio State. In the coroner's world in Delaware County, whoever has remains initiates the death certificate, whether it's a funeral home, whether it's Montgomery County Coroner's Office. OSU was supposed to be initiating the death certificate. However, the forensic anthropologist unit at Ohio State University can't
No
do
concern
that
for my
whatever
rights.
reason.
No
So they
concern
are
for
Yeah.
the
we're trying to figure out
husband.
how to get this death certificate started.
Right.
So
You
that
know,
we can
everything I'm going
be
through.
finished and done with. And they learned that they could do it themselves when the remains
People
were
are
not.
vultures.
And that's what they
He's a
did. and
lizard
that's what took
person.
so long to get the death certificate. It's not because of
Yeah.
Dr. Smock's report.
He is. That's
The
a
Dr.
lizard
Hickman will definitely
person.
say it's
Yeah,
confidential.
it is.
He will say after getting
A
that
dumb one.
Montgomery County Coroner's Office report and the forensic
Very.
anthropologist report, he knew it wasn't a suicide, and he would say it was a homicide.
You, Dr. Hickman.
Yes.
He knew it wasn't suicide.
Well,
Why didn't he come up
I
with
think
the
it
death
was-
certificate?
Go ahead.
And Your Honor,
Right.
the state of Ohio is in a coroner system.
So testimony regarding a medical examiner system, as she wants to impeach him with on a YouTube video, I don't think should be applicable. There are differences to both systems, okay? Now, I believe after the court hears from the training and expertise of Dr. Smock, you're going to find he has more experience than most forensic pathologists, than most coroners. And he certainly can opine based on his training and experience. He's a medical doctor. He's done emergency room. I'm going to get into all.
I guess the original question is, who can testify as to manner and mode of death? And I believe under the coroner system of Ohio, that rests exclusively with the coroner. And it's my understanding, as you just indicated, the coroner's going to say that. I don't think anyone else is authorized to say that other than the coroner.
Right.
Now, you're telling me the coroner relied upon Dr. Spock's report to render his decision? In part.
In part,
Okay, that's fine.
And he does also rely on Montgomery County coroner's information. He also relies on the forensic anthropologist's information
I was
in
gonna say-
coming to this conclusion.
But
And
she's
he's
not a
permitted
forensic
to do that
anthropologist.
as a coroner.
I'm not arguing. I don't think we're having an issue with that.
No, Dr.
I think he's good. I
Hickman
think
is
everything
definitely
said,
not a
He
forensic
come in and
anthropologist.
he can testify as to those issues and ultimately his findings.
Okay.
The question on the table is, can your expert witness say what the manner and mode is? And I think that's probably not appropriate. I think that's the sole, under the statutes of Ohio, the sole responsibility of the coroner. He can testify as to his findings, and certainly those are the findings that were relied upon by, in part, by your coroner. And so you can get that in, and the coroner can address that issue as to what he found to be instructive in those reports as part of his decision. But I think the testimony of the doctor should be a lot like what we've had with this particular witness, the specific findings that were utilized by the coroner ultimately making that decision. So I think the answer is he shouldn't be testifying as to what his conclusion is as to what the outcome is. Now, he certainly can say, and I presume he would, that tying a rope around your neck is not consistent with the types of injuries down here. I don't know if he's going to say that or not, but I think that's kind of the issue here. Did the ligature cause these injuries, or was another mechanism to cause the injuries? He can talk about the difference between the two, but without him actually saying this is a homicide, because that's the sole job of the coroner.
Your Honor, and respectfully.
I mean, if a police officer comes on a scene and sees somebody with a bullet hole in the head, I think they can come to a conclusion that, and there's no gun present, it's a homicide, but that's not their role. The officer doesn't say it's a homicide, the coroner does.
Your Honor,
I'm using that analogy. So.
if I may, defense counsel has had this report since the beginning of the case when we first handed over discovery. They are just now
Doesn't matter if
pointing
you're not
these two
doing your
issues out
fucking
specifically.
job. It
I would
doesn't matter
request
when they had it.
30 to 45 minutes to review some specific case law in the statute, because respectfully, I disagree that an expert outside of the Delaware County coroner cannot offer an opinion as to the manner and cause of death. So you would please permit us that opportunity, because this is vital. And
No.
again,
I don't-
defense has sat on.
31319
Oh,
indicates that the cause of death, the manner
Crazy.
and mode in which death occurs, shall be the legally accepted manner and mode in which such death occurred, and the legally accepted cause of death as delivered by the coroner. So the statute says the coroner will do that, and that's my rule. The coroner will do that, but nobody else will. Okay,
Your
let me
Honor,
agree.
then I'm going to.
You can make a record. I made my ruling. If you want to make a record, go ahead.
No, Your Honor, I understand.
They want Smock to be able to
I'm
say that she
requesting
died
time
from
at the
a
end of
mental
Dr. Agnew
strangulation.
then to spend with my witness
Wow.
to ensure.
Have somebody else do
They
that.
just want, because
Well, we're sure you
he's
do
their
that.
main,
I think Mr.
Yeah, they
Seaver
just want it on the
has
record.
examined
They
the
want
witness, so
the
feel free to go
sound
out and
bite.
talk to your witness.
and
so they can
he's not
argue
even
it.
an expert anyway. I mean, he's a-
But also,
All right, if you want a break, I'll give you the break. That's fine.
Well, their
Give me a
expert
break,
was
no problem.
shit, so I don't. I don't take their experts for much.
31319 says,
The court's ruling is your Dr. Smock is not going to be saying this was a homicide.
what he's going to say, it's a staged suicide. That's not been objected to. So the only thing he's not allowed to say is then that his opinion is this is homicide. That's the only objection. I want to make sure I understand.
Well, I suppose there is a distinction there, but that's fine. There's a lot of
Hey, good one.
examination on direct
Good one,
request that can flesh
Sleeper.
this out.
You
So
got 'em.
we'll let the system do its thing.
He can't say it's a murder,
Thank you,
but he
Mark.
can say it's
Just
a stage
thank you.
suicide.
Yeah, you got it. You got it. Good question.
He's a
Good
stage
question.
suicide expert. All right. Give a fuck.
That's the guy I want to talk to. I want to talk to the fucking mini Keebler elf there. God, that'd be so much
Get him
fun.
You
on.
should bring your witness in too.
Get him on.
I try. I'm trying. I'm trying.
Did you guys know that the tooth that they took out for Emily's DNA analysis was at the scene 6 months? 6 months later?
Really?
Get the
What?
No one believes it. When I tell them that, they just look at me and they're like, "That didn't happen." I'm like, "Yeah, you gotta. It's in the trial. You
Yeah.
gotta watch it."
Oh my,
Yeah.
that is fucking
Those are the
ridiculous.
marks. Okay. Sorry. I didn't have
Ridiculous.
this. No problem.
I believe we are in cross-examination. I'm spoken to yourself under oath. Thank you very much. Please proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Dr. Agnew, I have, as I indicated to you just a minute ago, I put a complete copy of your report and also the addendum up there, just in case you need to look at them as opposed to the electronic.
Thank you.
Sure. Looking at page 3 of 10 of the report, I just kind of want to go through the report and just talk about some things that I noticed. Showing you State's Exhibit 127. Again, that was the tag that you were, I think you were asked about that, where it says Emily Noble WF52. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And going to your report under the age at death section, I just want to, the last sentence, which results in the age of 27.3 to 49.1. That's the age range with respect to, based on your work in this case, that was the age range you say. Tell me what the mean is on your results like that. What's your plus minus? Or is the plus minus incorporated in?
For that range, the standard deviation is incorporated in.
Okay, so it's not like 41.1 years plus or minus 3. That's not what it is. This is your range for how old she was.
Correct.
And I just point this out. Obviously, we know from this that it just says 52, which certainly doesn't mean it's true. But obviously, from your work, you did the testing and you determined her age to be between 27.3 and 49.1. Is that right?
Just to clarify, what I determined was the categorization of the macroscopic indicator on her pelvis, which is listed as a phase 4 from the published methods of Brooks and Suchy. And that method is what then determines the age range, not me.
So you used your literature, right? What do you call the scale? What do you call phase 4?
Yes, it would be a scale.
So you used the scale, right? Coupled with your experience and training, and this was your determination as included in your report.
Yes.
I want to just down here, when you talk about the ancestry, just curious with respect to you including the nasal aperture width and the nasal bone contour. If there's so much deformation to that area, would you agree with me that you probably shouldn't have scored that? Or would you disagree with me?
I would disagree. Those particular features aren't only in the areas of antemortem trauma that would interfere with that, but they are part of that method with those 6 different traits. So they were included, but not relied upon solely.
I want to show you what's been marked as 6 of 10. This is in your report. Tell me if you, and would you agree that the photographs in your report with respect to any facial trauma, antemortem, perimortem, or the like, are on page 6 of 10? Tell me if I'm wrong.
Are you asking if all of them are included there, or?
In your report, you have, your pictures begin, do they not, on page 5 of 10?
Yes.
Okay, and then we go to 6 of 10, which is right here.
Correct.
And then we go to 7 of 10, right? And 8 of 10.
There's pictures on those pages, yes.
No, my question is pictures of the face. The face. Those are on page 6 of 10.
Correct.
The other pictures in your report are either of the neck area or the femur or the scapula. There are different areas.
There are different areas that are not the face.
So I just want to focus the jurors in when they have your report that page 6 has 4 photos on it. And those are the 4 photos in your report with respect to any head trauma.
Yes.
Okay, so let's look at page 6 of 10. Showing you here, this is the picture in your report. And here you use colored circles, do you not? And when I say here, I mean in your report.
Correct.
And the purple circle in this, in the nasal aperture picture, you are identifying as plastic deformation, are you not?
The blue circle does include some evidence of plastic deformation.
And that was the purpose of the blue circle around the aperture in your report.
Yes.
And plastic deformation, would you agree, is essentially bent bone?
Good night, Fast.
Good night, Fast.
It's not quite as simple as that. No.
Okay, but what is plastic deformation?
Plastic deformation refers to, in the sense of bone that has deformed to the point where it can't go back to its original state. So bones bend regularly without breaking. And that would not include plastic deformation. So when it is plastic, it's reached beyond the point of being able to return to its original state.
So let's just say that if there's a break in your arm, you can have a break, can you not, reset so that the bone is realigned, right?
Correct.
You would expect then to see, based on your description of plastic deformation, that if a bone breaks and it's malaligned, as in it hasn't been reset, there could be some plastic deformation there.
That plastic deformation is referring to the change in the bone during the event that caused it, yet we can see evidence for it later.
So just a yes or no, or I don't
He's
know.
way
With
caught
respect
up.
to If there was a break and it heals when it's malaligned, is it your testimony that you would expect or could see plastic deformation? Yes or no?
It's possible.
Here in this picture, showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 39, which is 139, which is a closer, just a single shot of the nasal aperture. Would you agree?
Yes.
And showing you previously in your report, the circle, and I'm doing a rough circle, but is around the entire nasal aperture. You don't have a picture in your report specifically pointing to the deformation. Would you agree with me on that? You just have it in a circle.
Correct. It's just indicating the general area.
So the general area is where you see it?
Specific.
So
somebody
why
pointed
not
like you.
be specific with
matter.
it?
Specifically,
Right.
it's in this area.
So your testimony is the plastic deformation is in, and I didn't need to circle it, is in the, let's do it again so the jury's, I won't circle over.
It's in this area.
That area right there. So when you encircle this whole area, really you're talking about this area in terms of plastic deformation. I just want to be clear because it matters.
There is likely also some evidence of it in this area as well, but most of it is in this area here. It's very difficult to see in these pictures, of course.
And right here, of course, is where you have marked in picture C, antemortem trauma.
Yes.
So we have plastic deformation where there's antemortem trauma. Okay. Want to just make sure too, in terms of your report, showing you, this is, again, page 6 of 10. The green circles here are showing the viewer of your report antemortem trauma, right?
Correct.
So before, is that right?
Yes.
Then
That's evidence of
today-
healing.
I'm sorry?
You said before. I just wanted to clarify that there's evidence of healing.
There's evidence of healing. And we know that. One of the things that you can look for in evidence of healing is if it's shiny or rounded edges. Would you agree with me on that?
Rounded edges, yes. Shiny, no.
Okay. And because the bones were also put into peroxide. So, well, withdraw that question. So, and then you were shown State's Exhibit 141. And in 141, you're not using circles when you testified today. You're using arrows. Would you agree with me on that?
Yes, those are arrows.
And in your report, you've got 2 circles here. And are there any other circles in that image, C, or just the 2 antemortem?
There's only the 2 green circles in figure 5C.
And then notice in what you testified to today in State's Exhibit 141, there's now this arrow here. Do you see that?
I do. That's indicated in figure 5B.
So let's go to 5B. 5B is this photo right here. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. So I want to make sure that where you're saying there is the perimortem trauma, I'm very clear on it. So corresponding with State's Exhibit 141, is 141 corresponding to that circle up there?
The red arrow in the left-hand photo in 141 is indicating the top red circle in figure 5B. Yes.
Okay. Then let's go back and really talk about this. This area right here, this, would you agree that it's the same area right there?
Yes.
Okay. Because your arrow is in 2 different places. And so I just want to know which of the arrows.
Objection, Your Honor. Move to strike the comment.
It-
About the location of the arrow, she can ask a question about it, but she's making comments about what the pictures look like without asking a question.
Okay, I'm not sure I followed the question. Would you ask the question
Sure,
again,
Your
please?
Honor. It appears
Digger,
the
she did the
arrows,
Dr.
right?
Huesel
We know
case.
that this general area is the same as this general area. So I'm asking you.
That was
and I
like a
understand they're
month
different
long or
perspectives,
something like
but
that.
this area, this arrow appears to be
Yeah.
in the middle.
Right before this one.
appears to be on the
Right.
top. Tell me if I'm wrong because I want to really understand where you see the perimortem trauma.
Along the edge that both arrows are indicating, which is very difficult to see from 2D photographs. So it looks different from different perspectives. The picture on the left is a superior photograph in one perspective, and the picture on the right is an anterior. So one is from the top and one is from the front. So it would be very difficult to get the arrow in the exact same place.
Is I recall from your report that these photos were taken with the stereoscopic camera. Am I right about that? Is that how you say it?
Yes.
Okay. And check your report, but let me know.
Can you clarify what the question is?
Yeah. Which camera did you use to take these pictures?
The stereoscopic camera or the camera attached to the stereoscopic microscope is indicated in photo C.
And so I thought I heard in your direct examination when you were asked about the stereoscopic photos, you said essentially it's a microscope that allows you to see things that the naked eye couldn't see. Do you remember telling jurors that?
I don't remember my exact wording.
Sound about right? Or not? Does it not sound right?
I cannot remember if I said those words.
The microscope,
I hate when they
stereoscopic
just
microscope
back
allows
off
you
shit
as
because they're
a researcher
afraid of what's coming.
to see things under the lens that you might not be able to see with your own eyes. That's literally why you use it, is it not?
Yeah, you might not be able to see it.
And that camera, that stereoscopic microscope, has a camera in it, right? There's a camera that's part of it that captures the same photos that you see through the microscope. Is that right?
Essentially, yes.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 144. And tell me if I'm wrong, but State's Exhibit 144, is this picture in your report?
This exact depiction, no.
And do you remember when I came to your office and we talked about this picture in particular?
I vaguely recall it, yes.
Okay. And I asked you, we were talking about Auntie, and I said, well, appears to be healed here, so this couldn't be perimortem. Do you remember when I asked you that question?
No.
Because one fracture cannot be both peri and antemortem. Would you agree with me on that?
I wouldn't agree necessarily.
Would you disagree?
It's possible that an existing fracture that had started to heal could again be re-injured.
But that's a different scenario.
And then we didn't ever have this picture in your report, but now we have the arrow here indicating perimortem. Is that your testimony?
Yes.
And then you would agree with me in the companion picture in 144 that this is the nasal aperture, the nasal spine right here. Would you agree with me on that?
This is damn good lawyering.
anterior nasal
That's
spine,
what this
And
is.
there's no circle or arrow or anything there.
No.
And this photo is called anti and perimortem trauma, and there's no circle on the nasal spine.
Correct.
Also not included in your report with respect to antemortem fractures, and I know I asked you about this too when we were together, are all the rib fractures that were observed on the right rib, the left rib, the left rib, the left rib. I think there was 4 rib fractures. Do you agree with me on that on page 7 of 10 of your report?
Yes, I see that.
And remember, I asked you why there aren't pictures of those antemortem fractures in your report, and you agreed there weren't.
There are not.
When we're talking about
Because it didn't have
antemortem,
anything to do with
perimortem,
me.
postmortem,
It didn't have
Right.
anything to do with her injuries to her face and her neck.
that every
you didn't
individual's
bother.
bones heal in a different
Right.
way. Right? There are different factors that could influence perhaps how my bones heal versus your bones heal. Things like diet, genetics, if I have osteoporosis and maybe my bones aren't as healthy or strong as someone else's might be. Those are all things to consider when we're just kind of looking at issues with respect to bones, trauma, the like, right? We all heal different.
That's a true statement.
And then I guess I'll just jump to this photo, which page 8 of 10 in your report. Eight of 10. This is, you recognize this as page 8 of 10?
Yes.
And this is a stereoscopic image of an osteolytic lesion. And I want to give you a closer up photo of this image depicted here, showing the witness what I've marked as defendant's exhibit FF. Dr. Agnew, do you recognize that photo?
Yes.
And that's noted in your report, again, on page 8 of 10. You're familiar with osteoporosis or osteopenia, I presume, from your work on skeletons?
Yes.
And tell the jurors what that is, or let's start with osteopenia. What is that?
Osteopenia is a clinically diagnosed low bone mass, essentially.
And low bone mass means what?
It means that the person that's being assessed compared to a similar demographic has lower than essentially the average bone mass.
And in layperson's terms, if I have osteopenia, my bones aren't strong, is maybe a same or similar person.
I would not say that.
Okay, well, they aren't, what's the lay, how would you say?
That compared to the average person, that you had been clinically diagnosed as having a lower bone mass.
A lower bone mass. So compared to the average person, I have a lower bone mass. And you would or wouldn't agree that that means that my bones aren't as strong as the average person?
No, to me, strong means a different,
Okay.
it has a different meaning.
Okay, this picture right here, is depicting,
Now we're gonna argue over
What?
semantics because she's getting
An osteolytic lesion on the scapula.
Yep.
and you noted that because this goes right to the issue that we were just talking about, right? With respect to
typical academic.
bone strength, density, etc. Right?
No, it was noted because it's an anomaly on the skeleton.
Okay. What about the osteolytic lesions, or on this picture showing you what's been marked? I thought you had an osteolytic lesion on the scapula, did you not?
Yes, that's the same lesion.
So tell the jurors on defense exhibit GG where it is.
This, oops, sorry. It's underneath my green
Okay.
squiggle now.
And so then this, the other picture that I showed you is a close-up of that. Is that right?
Correct.
And the stereoscopic camera captures this photograph, and we know that from your report.
Yes.
Okay. Now, let's go to. Did you take the X-rays of the fibula and the on 9 and 10?
Yes.
You took those X-rays.
Me personally?
Yes.
I pushed the button. Yes.
Okay, that's just what I was wondering, because I want to
Yeah,
make sure
you
that
took
you
the
took the
X-rays.
X-rays,
Oh my,
and you personally also took the photos that are contained in the report,
seriously.
or was that Angela Hart?
Like you mean,
Angela and I
did I
worked
make
together
them?
to take the images of
Did I
the
develop them?
the
Did I bring them
gross
to
pictures,
you?
the overview pictures, the stereoscopic images, as well as the
Like,
X-rays.
did I design the X-ray machine?
So is it?
No.
Are you not able to say actually which pictures you took and which pictures Angela took?
I don't recall.
Have you ever done a mummified case before?
Yes.
How many
I don't recall.
of the 50 to 100 cases you don't recall? How many were mummified?
No.
How many of those mummified cases that you don't recall did you write reports? Do you recall that?
No.
The mummy unalive.
Wow.
Give me my-
I don't know. Well, you're supposed to know. You're coming to
Right.
court.
Good thing. Good thing.
Yes.
You brought a 30-page CV and you don't know how many of your
Right.
I know we
cases
talked
were
about just before
mummified?
the lunch break about your inclusion in your report about the molars and how you had been told that they had been submitted for DNA, and then you later learned that actually at least one of the molars was at the scene. Do you remember that?
Yes.
That's so fucked up.
Ask you the greater form photo. Well, I'll just use this one. Page 5 of 10. There was testimony about the missing greater horn. Right? You said that it was missing. It wasn't there for your analysis.
Correct.
Showing you your report. Oh, perfect. This is State's Exhibit 131. This is a closer image of it. And in the trauma section in your report, tell me if you need to refer to it, you indicate that it's not present for analysis, right?
Correct.
Where is it?
I have no idea.
So when we're looking at this fracture, without that, you would agree that we
Wow.
don't have the companion bone here.
Oh.
Correct.
More.
And obviously, you testified that you went back to the scene, and it also wasn't recovered at the scene. You are familiar, of course, and something we talked about just generally with respect to anytime there is a body that's left in the elements, there could always be insect or maggot or some kind of animal activity, right?
It's always possible.
Always possible. And I just want to be clear that with respect to where that bone is you have no information about that.
No.
And you also testified as to 4 different fractures. And I just also want to make sure in your report that you describe them as consistent fractures with respect to State's Exhibit 131. Do you agree with me on that?
I said that, or indicated that they were in consistent locations bilaterally.
And consistent locations, and you make that determination without this other bone. Is that correct?
Yes.
And of course, without the other bone, we don't get to see the edge of what would be there.
Correct.
Tell me if you'd like me to approach, but do you see in this comes across as so bright because the bone is white. This area right here is, I'm sorry, State's Exhibit 142. Thank you. And again, just this is the eye socket generally, is it not?
Yes, this region is the eye orbit.
And I know that in your report, you don't note any post-mortem trauma. But as you look at that picture, or at any point through your work in this case, do you see the post-mortem trauma in that eye socket area?
Yes, in this region to the ethmoid bone.
Wow.
But that's not in your report.
No.
Show the jurors, it's where the arrow is. So that's post-mortem trauma. So right?
It's post-mortem damage.
Damage. The bone is dry here. Is that
all of the bone is dry.
And this, you're looking, you've been asked to do a forensic anthropological analysis, and in
She
your
doesn't
report,
even mention
you
it.
don't include the
Right.
post-mortem damage.
Postmortem trauma to her eye socket.
Nothing further.
They don't even mention it. You know why?
Wow.
Pretty obvious, right? They don't want you to know what happened. They damaged her eye
Yeah.
socket after the fact.
Yeah.
After they picked her up. Whatever. Uh-oh. Looked like I was writing something down there. Oh, geez.
Dr. Agnew, a few follow-up questions. Were all of the photos that you took during your assessment of the skeleton included in your written report?
No.
Or were those photographs included with your written report so they could be reviewed, the ones you didn't pick out and put in the report themselves?
Yes.
You were asked about this missing hyoid bone. Can you give the jury an idea of the size of one of the horns of the hyoid?
Yes, it varies per person, of course, but it's a very, very small, fragile bone. And the greater horn is probably about the size of your maybe pinky fingernail.
Damn.
So that's, it looks big in these
Yeah, it's
microscope
hard to tell.
photos. That's how tiny of a structure we're talking about.
Yes.
Was the lack of that horn on the hyoid, did that prevent you from being able to tell whether or not this was a unilateral or a bilateral fracture of the hyoid?
No, because the middle portion of the hyoid was present where part of that fracture margin was still present. So we only had half of the fracture, but it was still able to be analyzed.
And so with respect to your determination of that being perimortem trauma to that side of the hyoid, was that finding impacted in any way by the fact that you didn't have the horn itself?
No.
You were also asked a question about animal activity. Is there a term that you would use for post-mortem animal activity that affects a skeleton?
That would likely fall under taphonomic damage, or we would call that scavenging evidence.
And what is taphonomic damage mean? What is that?
Taphonomic just refers to any processes that affect the skeleton after death. So in this case, it could be an animal. It could also be a tree root.
In your review of these remains, did you
A
find
tree
any
root?
evidence of scavenging activity?
No.
Yeah, it's been that long where there's tree root.
Finally, you were asked some questions back before
What
lunch
kind of
about
question is that?
the process of tissue being removed from bones.
I don't know. This guy's a stable
If
genius.
damage had
We know
occurred
this.
to the bones during that process, what would that look like?
It would depend on the type of damage. I have seen before a scalpel blade accidentally nicking a bone and leaving a very clear, sharp defect on the bone. So that is something that could commonly happen.
Could any damage caused, again, not saying there was, but if there was damage caused during the processing of the bones, would
Not
that in
saying there
any way
was.
look similar to perimortem trauma that occurred to those same bones?
Interesting.
No.
So is there any possibility that anything that occurred during processing would make it so you couldn't differentiate between that and the perimortem trauma that you testified about?
No.
Oh, of course not. We can't implicate ourselves.
I don't know if
No.
Yes, sir. You would agree with me when you're asked questions about any possibility that you know as a scientist. Science is not 100%.
Objection, Your Honor. Outside the scope.
The question was, is there any certainty? And you said no, and I just want to make sure that you know as a scientist, you cannot say anything, even with respect to your best area of expertise and training. Nothing is 100% in science. Is that correct?
Correct.
Nothing is already an absolute, so I can't agree with that.
Nothing is already an absolute. Nothing in life is an absolute, right? Okay. And then I just want to make sure, I thought I heard you on redirect use the word, 1 second. You said fragile bone. Do you remember testifying to that just a second ago, using those words?
I don't recall.
Nothing further.
Ladies and gentlemen, any questions? If we hear those words.
Every time I forget that jury can do this. Every time.
Good night, AP.
Night, AP.
Yeah, we were discussing earlier about the guy that sits in the back of the courtroom. He doesn't know who it is.
Yeah.
The guy in the blue shirt?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah. I was the jury, I would have questions here, but
Oh yeah, lots. Why were you so incompetent?
what the fuck is up with the tooth again?
Explain to me, how did the tooth get there?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah, she does look like a lizard.
Yeah.
He's a lizard. They're all lizards. She's a lizard.
Yeah.
That dude, that cop right there, he's not. He's all right. That guy's all right. But
Yeah.
he's a lizard. She was sick. I'll give her. There was something wrong with her. She was sick. Look at her. She's.
Well, she
Yeah.
had that appointment though, right?
She
That
had
she
some
couldn't
sort of
re-
appointment. You know,
Yeah.
She had things. Wrong.
Yeah.
Three has a few questions. I'll read these to you. I'm going to kind of bounce around, so there may not be real consistency to where I'm going from. Were you aware that when you received the remains that there were tennis shoes on the feet?
When I received the remains, there were no tennis shoes or clothing present.
Wait, what?
Okay, so
Huh.
would you be able
When
to
she received
answer the
Emily,
question, right, or
there
was
was
missing
she
on the
wasn't wearing
report
any
when
clothes
there
or
were
didn't have
tennis shoes on the
shoes.
feet at the scene? You feel comfortable answering
No
that?
shit.
Where did they
I analyzed what
go?
was present.
They
when
went
the
to
remains,
Montgomery first.
were
That's
brought
the
to me,
coroner's
and so
office
I
in
have no
Montgomery.
knowledge of anything that happened before that.
Okay, thank you.
And they did like a preliminary autopsy on her, the best they could from what they had, but they didn't have
Are you
what
able
they
to tell
needed.
how long
Try to
ago
pin
the
murder on
anti-mortem
someone, so
nasal
they
trauma
need to-
occurred?
They need to give it
Send it out.
to.
Farm it
No,
out.
I could not speculate about the amount of time that has passed since that healing started.
What
So she didn't know
factors
there were shoes on her
influence
feet. Okay.
Perimortem fractures to appear as
I mean,
perimortem
you'd
trauma?
think that the whole
Does
thing
days,
would
weeks, and
go,
months
but
does
whatever.
environment have an impact, or
The bracelet
the
was there.
tissue was covering it have any impact upon that?
Those biomechanical characteristics for the bone to display perimortem features cannot
Now I have
happen if the
questions.
bone isn't hydrated. So it needs to be in its normal, fresh state for that to occur.
Yeah, chat should be able to
And
ask
in
questions.
terms of a
I think.
specific timeline, I can't
Yeah,
say
absolutely.
how long that fresh state could have been extended under different circumstances.
The environment could
Speaking of
have
chat
impact
questions,
upon
I've
that timeframe?
Yes.
largely ignored chat.
I've been paying attention.
How is
I
it
know.
possible that no animal scavenger in the body was evident after 4 months in a wooded area?
Right.
That is surprising, but it is possible, and I'm confident that we found no evidence of that scavenging on the skeleton. I can't say what happened to any of the missing elements, and so we can't rule out scavenging activity completely. I can only say that there was no evidence of it on the remains.
And did you note any rib fractures?
Antemortem rib fractures, yes.
So they were not perimortem.
No, they were not.
And,
Yes.
and the last question, did you receive the autopsy report from Montgomery County?
No, I have never seen that.
Oh,
Wow.
They
I
have any
didn't know that.
No question, Ernie.
questions? All right. Defense, have any questions?
I think just when you're talking about perimortem, you said fresh. And I just want to clarify since it's been brought up again. Perimortem, because you can't tell, it could possibly be days or weeks or even months. That time frame at or around that.
Correct.
Nothing further.
Thank you. You may sit down. Ladies and gentlemen, before the next witness testifies, there are some legal matters that need to be addressed that do not require your assistance. So not formally the afternoon break, but we are going to take a short break till we get those prepared and resolved, and then we can call the next witness. So remember the course of admonition. We'll call you back in just as soon as we can. Thank you.
Yeah, it seems like we get that. So then we'll call it for tonight. Well, we have a couple questions, but after that, then we'll call it. Because you've been starring them, right?
Yeah.
This happens outside of the jury.
Correct. Yeah.
With you that I have provided you my final.
This is pretty.
draft
This
of
is
the
pretty
instructions.
cool.
So at your convenience, review them for any additions, corrections, deletions, and we can. In fact, if you want to just get them to us by some form or other, I can address that. But at our mutual convenience, we'll have a charging instruction conference.
Thank you, Your Honor. We did actually have a marked up copy from Sunday that I forgot to tender, but Nicole mentioned that you had now issued a final. So we'll look at that tonight and then adjust our comments accordingly.
Outstanding. Okay.
We'll get that to you. Yes.
Oh, charge instructions and that kind of shit. Okay. All
I
right.
think
We'll,
so.
so we'll stop it right there. And Matt, we got a couple good questions for you before you take
All
off.
right.
How did you get through something like this after it's done? You don't want it to define the rest of your life. And extending to how do you sit there in the courtroom with all this shit going on? Like how are you able to get through it? How are you able to get through it now?
I don't know really. It doesn't bother me. It was such a unique experience, I guess you could say. I've lost my children. So after you go through something like that, and then my wife, I lost my brother when I was a teenager. I've been through a lot in my life. You just kind of, I don't know really I don't know how you do it. It's just, this wasn't as hard as some other thing. Losing my kid, losing Emily itself. This was like a distraction from the real horror of losing my wife. This was like,
Right.
This wasn't that hard. It was hard.
Okay.
And it's hard. I mean, now that I'm out, I really got a taste of what life's about. You know, it's like this, I'm free. It's I don't know.
There's a new
People ask me that
respect
a
for
lot.
it.
They do. How do you make it? I don't know.
Wow.
I had no idea.
Yeah, and you're bound to have a new respect for life because it was almost literally taken away from you. Like it was.
I was dead. I'd
Yeah.
come to terms with my life being over when I was in jail.
Mhm.
I was ready to die. I mean, suicide's everywhere in jail. I mean, it's just everywhere.
Yeah.
You either get through it or you kill yourself. You got two choices.
Yeah.
And suicide. So I was ready for it. And then after you go through something like that, life becomes kind of easy.
Yeah.
You're gonna die, so you just get through it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain it.
No, I mean
Yeah.
that was about as good as you could. I think.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
it's not something that, and it's
Look
not
what's
something
going
that
on
any of us
overseas.
know.
Look what's
Right.
Look what's going on in Palestine right now. You know, in Israel. I mean,
Yeah.
things could be a lot worse. You know,
Yeah.
they really can. So you just go with it.
Yeah, do the best with the hand you're dealt, and try and make it. So
I mean, it's gonna end sooner or later. I mean, why go that route? You just keep going. Whatever life's got to hand you, you deal with it, and you just keep going. Yeah, you just keep going.
yeah. No, and I mean I commend the shit out of you for it because
Yeah.
you've been through hell, and I don't know that I could sit here and watch the trial and not
Oh, I wouldn't.
like I don't know that I could do that. I don't know that.
Yeah.
No.
This part I actually haven't seen since I did research my book.
Okay.
So this part's really boring. But I mean, I hadn't heard about the tooth in so long. I'd forgotten sort of. Hey, remember the tooth part? What was that?
Yeah.
You know, it's
Right.
it's just interesting to me. I can see why people would be interested in trials. They're interesting.
Yeah. And it's just interesting to see the power of the state and how much they can make your life hell, and
I'm telling you.
and completely
Incompetent,
unjustified in
and they're
most
just
cases.
they're just people like everybody else, and they're jerks and they're assholes and they're egos, and they don't. Most of us would never do this to another person.
Right.
No, you know,
Yeah.
Why would you? But there are people that are in government that are in like these high places that they do it. They're jerks.
Yeah.
They're bad people. You know,
It's a power
Yeah.
they're
thing.
horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a power
fucked up.
over other people. So
I would never do this to another. I mean, I've had people in my I wouldn't do it to the people that did this to me. I couldn't sit
Yeah.
there and use the power of government to fuck someone out of their liberty. I couldn't do it. I couldn't even
Right.
these people that did this to me. I would be like, no, just let them live with themselves. They're miserable assholes to begin with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the key takeaway, because they are anybody who can do this to another human being is a miserable asshole.
They're miserable people. They're miserable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. I'll never let those people know that they destroyed me, because I'm not
Right.
destroyed. They helped me get through a big thing in my life. I now know that there's jerks like them out there, and they're not gonna get me. No way.
Yeah.
All right, so that is what I want. What were you thinking? That's kind of the same question, isn't it? But unless I'm reading it funny.
I don't know.
I don't know what that means.
What do you
I
think
read it.
started doing stuff like that during the trial? Oh, she's talking about writing. Like what
Oh,
were you just writing? Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, because that's what I would have been writing.
Oh, was I writing? No, I was actually writing things that I thought that she should know. That
Oh,
Diane
okay.
should know. But, I'm not much of a on the spot type person. You know, it takes me a while for things to sink in. She pretty
Mhm.
much handled everything. I mean, there was several things that I didn't speak to her about pre-trial. One of them was that the text messaging stopped, and my attorneys were like, well, where did those text messages go? Why did you stop texting Emily? And I figured it out. I figured it out that she started working from home, so we didn't text anymore. I figured
Yeah.
that out, but I didn't tell
Yeah.
her. I didn't have a chance to, because there was all this other crap. She figured that out.
Right.
She figured it out. So, you know, I didn't really need to do anything. She covered everything so well. So
Gotcha. Okay.
But she told me, write stuff down. I think what she does is she researches. I mean, this woman's a lawyer. I mean, that's all she does. That's it.
Yeah.
She probably wanted to see what during the trial, what I'm thinking. And she probably looks at all aspects of everything. So she was just like, hey, write things down as things come to you. Just write them down. She probably looks at them afterwards, I heard that she was reading the comments. She said that, right? She was reading the YouTube comments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At night, because she wants to know how the common people are thinking. Because that's
Right.
what the jury's thinking. She wanted to know what the jury was thinking, So she probably
And
wants
in
to
all
know
actuality,
at some point.
yeah. In all actuality, if you are a lawyer on trial, I don't see why you wouldn't want to look at the comment section if it's being live streamed, so that way you
Yeah.
do get a sense of what.
It's
Yeah,
a
right.
free live jury pool. Why the hell
Right.
wouldn't you wanna do it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
And maybe
Yeah.
she picked there's the type of person that writes in those comments, So maybe you pick she picked a type of jury that would have a propensity to write comments. So it's perfect, right? Yeah. I don't know.
right, and we all have profiles. I mean, if you wanted to do the work, you could look into people and be like, oh, this guy's like juror number 6, or this guy's like,
Right.
so on and so
Yeah.
forth. So
And it's
yeah,
Like
and
I mean,
so
you could find
bull.
it.
with the new AI, we were talking about this today. I was like, could you imagine an AI attorney? Like
No.
everybody's gonna have like the best attorney ever, for free on free source. Like, oh, imagine that.
I'm fucking terrified of AI, but that's personal. So
Yeah.
yeah,
It's gonna be
Okay.
something. The next 10. It's happening right now. I mean, just within the last year, they've come up with these amazing free programs where
Oh, yeah.
artwork. I'm an artist. I mean, they're starting to make movies, and it's pretty amazing what's happening. I'm sure within our lifetime there's going to be some sort of AI lawyer that's going to know every case ever since the history, and put it all together all at once, and it's going to be amazing. Everybody's going to have a really good legal representation. I don't see something like this happening very much longer. Like what they did to me, I don't think it's going to be they're going to be able to do it that much longer.
Yeah, you would hope not.
I hope not.
So, but the problem is the state always has more resources. So
It's endless.
But yeah, always has more resources. But maybe that's what levels the playing field and makes it so people can defend themselves again.
Hopefully enough people see things for what it is. I mean, sees government for what it is. Starts pulling the reins back a little bit.
Yep. from Shenny. So whoever got the body first, did they get the shoes and all the toes? I don't think we know for sure where the toes are
We
at.
don't know. That's the question.
They called my lawyer. My lawyer called me and they said, you need to come and pick your wife up. And I was just so like, that was like one of the most insulting parts of this. Was like,
Yeah.
do I get all of her? Do I get part of her? What are you done with her? Now that you're done with her, you're just gonna dump her? I mean, it's just, I'm sure her family took care of it. Her sister or brother, whoever took care of it. I couldn't deal with it.
It's just such a shitty way of dealing with the human.
Yeah.
And like, if I did that, it would be, you'd get
Tampering
charged
with
with
the-
10
yeah.
more felonies.
Yeah,
for
tampering with a body.
defying a
You know.
corpse
You
and all
can't.
that kind of
What
shit.
they did was
So,
a felony. It was criminal what they did to her.
Yeah, it was.
yeah.
Absolutely, 100%.
Mm-hmm. You want to take the last one?
The
You
last one?
start the last one. Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, Shinny says, Matt Henney, you're not a victim, you're a survivor of them. Don't let people apologize to you as you will believe you are to be a victim. Stay a survivor of these fools' warrior power.
Thank you. That's very nice of you. There's a lot of people out there saying a lot of nice things, and I appreciate everybody out there encouraging me. It's really nice. I love to read it. And I hope my story encourages you in some way, you know? I hope so.
Yeah.
Oh, and Shinny also
Sure.
says, to be honest, Matt, her sister didn't seem all that connected to anything but the string of holding her from flying off.
Yeah.
She stole my home. Her sister stole my home while I was in jail. Well, she took advantage of all this, and the lawyer came in and just took everything. So, yeah, her sister is not on my. You'd be amazed on how like people change when people die, and then there's money involved. You know, it's just amazing how quickly I understand that she thought that I had hurt her sister, and so did her brother.
Right.
Well, what you do is you wait until everything's over.
Absolutely.
You know, it's just, but they took advantage of, because the lawyer said, yeah, you know, you can get his house while he's going through this. Just take it. And they took it. So.
Shit.
Right.
That
That's
sucks.
awful.
Yeah.
But I think that is going to be it for us tonight, ladies and gentlemen.
All right. Cool. That was fun.
We'll pick. Yeah.
Yeah.
I appreciate it as always, Matt. And
All
you
right,
are
dude.
always welcome, sir.
All right, on, man. Yeah, I hope it generates you guys some likes or whatever. You know, some views.
Yeah, for sure. So,
I mean,
but yeah, this
it's a pretty unique situation. I mean, what podcast out there, you know, that has someone like me on there? You know, it's just
that's
Right.
what I'm saying. Like,
Mhm.
more people should hit that like button and
yeah.
spread it around
And
you know?
share it.
Yeah.
It's amazing what people like on the internet and what they don't like. This is a really unique situation. If you're a lawyer or a cop or whatever, if you're into this sort of thing, here you are. You're like, you have a really unique. You can ask me anything. I'll tell you whatever you want to know. But it's weird. It's strange how slow things sometimes happen on the internet. It's like,
Yeah.
Right.
All right, guys. Next week.
All right. Sounds good.
Sounds good.
Peace.
Take care, Matt.
Good night.
Bye.
Later.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. So we will see you. I will see you tomorrow. Tomorrow we have an interesting topic. We're going to step away from the Israel-Palestine conflict, and we're going to go into what's happening over in Spain. Interesting. And we'll go from there. So we got some fun stuff coming up. I'm excited. So hope everyone has a wonderful evening. Thank you, as always, Dog Mama, for hanging out with me. And
Thanks for having me.
it's a good time. Good time.
Mhm.
And that will be it for us. So have a good night, everybody. Hit
Good
that
night,
like
y'all.
on your way out.